Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
The Return of Joyboy by TheIntrovertRin. A story in which Luffy is the child of sea. The secrets of Luffy are unveiled slowly, which gives heart attack to people. Member list. Garrick Russell, Warlord. Black Money Young Lion, Warlord. KSG PL4YZ, Warlord. King Nemo, Warlord. Zach Travis, Warlord. Adios.
What? You left the treasure behind? Nami shrieked, leaning over her boat. I gave you half of it, that's 5 million belly. Yeah, but the village required it more than we needed it, Luffy said, backing off from Nami, who was radiating killing aura. That was my treasure, Nami cried, jumping into Luffy's and Zoro's boat. The small boat swayed dangerously due to Nami as well as the ocean, which demanded her child for inspection. Nami didn't have to threaten Luffy further as he fell into the ocean. Idiot! Zoro yelled in response as he dived in right after him, Nami watching them with confusion. For the first few seconds, Zoro didn't find Luffy. The thought of his captain being drowned unsettled him. The kid had a wound on his chest, which was bleeding and wasn't bandaged even. And hell, he straight off fell in the seawater. This was the worst Zoro could have ever thought. A few moments earlier, as Luffy fell in his mother's gentle arms, he grinned. The wound on his chest didn't bother him much, but he knew his mother would patch him up soon. He felt like a baby. His powers were not strong yet to heal himself, which made him pout and his mother chuckle at him. His mother's safe arms wrapped around him, caressing his wound and removing the blood trail. Warmth exploded within him, making him smile softly and cherish the memory. Maybe he can sleep in the waters when they reach an island. Even though he had spent a week with his mother, while coming to Dawn Island alone, there was always a longing to be with her. On the other side, Zoro dived in deeper and finally found Luffy, who was falling deeper into the ocean, with a soft smile etched on his face and arms stretched wide as if he was relaxing. The boy was not even trying to swim. He caught him and started swimming upward, feeling him being resisted by someone, until they popped out of the surface. Don't scare me, stupid, Zoro yelled, throwing the rubber boy on the deck gently despite his words. The boy in question just laughed it off, showing that he wasn't even facing any difficulty in breathing. Don't you know how to swim? Nami asked, controlling her anger and feeling sorry. Nope, Luffy said, holding his hat. You should clean the wound, Nami said, retreating to her own boat to find a first aid kit box. She doubts that the reckless idiots would have one. Done, Luffy said with his grin, halting Nami in her path and turned towards him. Even Zoro stopped to wrung his shirt to get the seawater out and look at him with narrowed eyes. Done? They both asked together. Luffy grinned and threw his shirt over from his chest and showed his perfectly woundless and scarless chest, shocking both Zoro and Nami, whose eyes went as wide as plates. How is that possible? Zoro asked in shock, finding nothing where once the wound was. I heal fast, Luffy said with a shrug. It was the only lie he could tell easily. Most probably cause it was true, but the fact that his mother helped him in healing was left unsaid. Okay, Zoro said with a sigh, knowing he wouldn't be getting more than this from the rubber boy. What is that? Nami asked, her eyes growing wide and about to change to the signs of bellies. What? Luffy asked, following Nami's eyes to his necklace. He held that with his hands and pouted at Nami and told, "These are my treasures." Treasures? Nami asked, nearly drooling on the jewels Luffy wore. In his neck was a necklace which contained a beautiful red shiny crystal and a brilliant sky blue feather. In his left wrist were bracelets made of seashells and pearls. She wondered how Luffy got his hands on it and how he was not yet robbed blind, most probably cause it was hidden from everyone. Yeah, Luffy said with a grin and pointed to the crystal. It's from my dad. He gave me when we were separated. Luffy then pointed to the feather. It's from Baratie. Oh, Nami said softly. All of a sudden she felt shame crash to her and a stone drop in her stomach as she was reminded of Belmere. And those? She asked with a small voice, pointing to the bracelets. Those are from my brothers, Luffy supplied with a little chuckle. They're bound on my wrist with a promise. Luffy said, looking at the endless ocean. The thought of stealing those stuffs left her mind. She wasn't that heartless enough to part a teen from something his family gave him with sentimental values. Okay, Nami replied, looking at the straw hat, which was torn. If you give me your hat, I can sew it back for you. Really? Luffy asked with his signature smile, making Nami nod and hold her hand out for the hat to be placed. Luffy handed her the hat, which she started stitching, all the while Luffy kept his eyes on it. She didn't mind it at all. Sewing was an easy work to her, so in minutes the hat was ready with its red ribbon for Luffy to wear. Thank you, Luffy said, getting back the hat from her. Not a big deal. Nami waved off her hands. She watched Luffy take out some torn papers from his pocket and stuff into the ribbon and wear the hat with the sunniest grin. Then the boy went to his backpack and dumped the contents in it to the boat, before rummaging the clothes section and picking out a red shirt which looked bigger for him to fit in. She wonders if she can play dress up with the boy. Nami slapped her cheeks lightly. She was getting attached to the boy. He was radiating so much warmth that she wasn't able to help with it. But one day she would need to leave just like every crew which she had faked to join. Maybe after collecting the bellies she can meet him someday in the ocean. That brought her thoughts to the Grand Line map. How will they go to Grand Line without a map? When Buggy was sent flying, the map was too. Nami didn't realize that she had told her thoughts out too loud for Luffy to hear. Here, Luffy said, handing out a paper from his bag. Nami opened it curiously to find that was the Grand Line map. How? I mean. Buggy, Nami was interrupted when Luffy decided to speak again. My brothers told me to give it to my navigator, Luffy said, picking his nose. You had them all the time? Nami said, clutching the map in her hand and gritting her teeth. Yep, and you didn't bother telling me? Nami said, looking at the team. From her corner of her eyes, she saw Zoro sweat at her anger. Good. At least someone had enough brains to know what is going on, unlike the rubber boy who was grinning ear to ear. I was about to bonk. Nami bonked Luffy's head, unable to handle the team. If Luffy already had the map, then why the damn hell did they go through so much trouble of defeating Buggy? They could have just sneaked into the warehouse and stole the treasure and ran. We need to plan things, Nami said, getting out of her cabin. It has already been a day since she was sailing with the duo. She looked at the boys. Zoro was napping and briefly opened his eyes to show he was awake, while Luffy was sitting on the boat looking at the endless ocean with his ever-present grin on his face. What do you mean? The boy asked her curiously, looking away from his mother to Nami. Are we going to Grand Line like this? Nami questioned as she looked at the only two ships, which barely had any food left due to the monstrous appetite of Luffy. It still amazed her. The kid could eat a lot, and by lot she really meant a lot. We need more meat, Luffy replied with a large smile. And booze, Zoro added his thoughts in the so-called planning. Nami face palmed. She was really contemplating whether Luffy was ready to start his journey. The boy was hardly 14, she believed. If he doesn't get a decent crew to follow him, then he will die in the Grand Line. Moreover, she had never thought that the pirate hunter was a similar dumbass as his captain. How were these dumbasses even sailing? It was beyond her comprehension. I'm not talking about food supplies, Nami yelled in annoyance. Of course you weren't, Luffy laughed as the woman glared at him. We need to get a bigger ship before heading to Grand Line. I don't think these two boats can go. They can. Of course they can't, Nami yelled with sharp teeth. She was losing her patience against the rubber boy. So, what do we do then? Luffy asked. He had always left planning to his brothers or Koala or Hack or his dad cuz he hates planning. And the smartest right now among them was Nami. There's a village due north, Nami said, holding her map out for them to see. We should look for a ship there first. And have some meat. Luffy cheered, arms in air and with an impossible grin on his face. Booze too, Zoro added with a smile. Nami sighed for the umpteenth time, wondering if she was the only sane person left, which she probably was. I am Usopp, head of a pirate fleet and ruler of this village, Usopp said, crossing his arms over his chest. My people and servants heap praises upon their captain's name, the great Captain Usopp. If you are thinking of attacking the town, think again, Usopp said confidently, but his shaking legs were saying otherwise. My 80 million followers cannot be stopped. You're lying, Nami replied with a straight face. They had reached the cluster of islands, which is called the Gecko Islands, just a moment ago and were right now in Syrup Village. Usopp gasped and yelled with his hands on his head, I'm busted. See, you said, busted, Nami pointed out while sweat dropping. Oh no, I accidentally let that I was busted, Usopp said, panicking. Luffy couldn't control anymore and burst out laughing at Usopp's antics. She, man, you're funny. Don't insult me, you idiot, Usopp yelled at the boy. I'm an extremely proud man that the people call me Usopp the Proud. He would have yelled at the other man too, but he looked too scary for Usopp to do so. Especially when the man was carrying 3 swords on his hips. There was no way Usopp could yell at him without assuming that it would be his death. But he needed to protect his village. He can't let these pirates go around and pillage his hometown. Don't worry, we're not going to attack the town, Luffy said with a polite grin, feeling the uneasy feelings coming from the long-nosed boy. I'm Luffy. This is Zoro and that is Nami. Like I can believe buggy pirates, Usopp mumbled, but Luffy caught onto it, and tilted his neck in confusion before remembering the sails of Nami's ship. They never took it down. What? Nami asked, not getting what Usopp was mumbling. Buggy is taken care of, Luffy said with a shrug, making Usopp look at him with narrowed eyes. Luffy beat him, Zoro supplied, pointing his finger to Luffy, making Usopp rethink. Him? Usopp asked in shock, and didn't believe when he got nods from both Zoro and Nami. Okay, for now Usopp the Great will not focus on that but on other thing. So, you are not pirates, right? Nope, we are pirates, Luffy said with a bright grin as if he wasn't stating the otherwise, but we only want food from the town. And booze, Zoro added. Nami was getting a tick mark. How can the dumbasses forget that they were here for a ship? She punched both of them on their heads, making them groan while scaring Usopp. We need a ship foremost. Food? Luffy asked using his puppy eyes on Nami, which made her falter completely. Zoro was grumbling that Nami was a witch for the bonk which he was been awarded, but got ignored by everyone. Yeah, food first, she told, not able to resist the cute, adorable eyes which used its magic on her. Yay, food. Luffy cheered, getting up from the ground and running off with Usopp, while Nami and Zoro ran after them. Usopp was literally dragged to the town, and he was now really contemplating his life. First, he finds put that buggy pirates are coming, and then he is being told that the kid who is dragging him beat him, and now he is being dragged to a restaurant by the said kid. Crew members and a ship? Usopp asked as the pirates ate. Yeah, that's right, Luffy said, happily eating the meat from the bone. Usopp felt amazed at it. Well, we don't have any big sailing ships or anything here, but if there's a ship, then that place will have it, Usopp said, pointing out of the window to show the big mansion sitting on top of the hill. That place? Nami asked. Usopp nodded and then went on to tell them about the young lady of the mansion. Hey lady. More meat, Luffy called out in between of Usopp's story. And booze, Zoro added to the order. Are you even listening? Usopp yelled at them, before sighing and accepting that they were lost cause, and went on to tell Nami how the lady in the mansion lost her both parents to sickness and all she was left with was a massive fortune, a huge mansion and an army of servants. We should find a ship in the next stop, she said, feeling bad about asking from a sick lady. By the way, Usopp said, looking at Luffy, who is the captain, as he was told by the other two, which was still unbelievable to him. You said you were looking for crew members. Yeah, Luffy said with a sunny grin. You can make me your captain, Usopp said, confidently pointing his thumb to his chest. No thanks, the trio said together. Hey, at least consider it, Usopp yelled with his jaws dropping comically to the ground. Nope, the trio said again, waving their hands to him. Usopp couldn't understand why they were following a kid, who was even younger than him. He sighed and remembered that he needed to be somewhere and left them on their own. They had just finished their plates and were drinking tea or booze, when three kids arrived in the bar and shouted their arrival in the name of Usopp pirates. Who are they? Nami asked, to no one in particular as she turned to the three kids. Not sure, Luffy said, vaguely remembering that he had sensed their hockey signature once but can't remember where, since he had never met them. Hey pirates, what have you done with our captain Usopp? Give the captain back, the three kids yelled, raising their swords in air. Luffy sipped off the tea, feeling good, and said, "Whoop, that was delicious." He didn't even realize that he scared the children shitless. What? You mean? The captain? Nami giggled at what she was sure the kids were thinking. If it's your captain you want, Zoro gave the kids an evil smile, we just ate him. Yeah, which? Why are you looking at me? Nami screeched at the kids, then gave a glare at Zoro for laughing. She then looked at the kids who were on the verge of fainting and told them that Usopp went somewhere, saying that it was time, and how they had no idea where he went. Oh, it must have been the time to go to the mansion, said the kid who was wearing a helmet. Is that mansion with the sick girl? Nami asked. Yeah, said the boy with the orange cap that was covering his eyes. What's he gonna do there? Luffy asked out of curiosity. Lie, said the three kids together. Isn't that bad? Luffy asked. For as long as he remembers, he never could lie. Not even to save his own life. His mom had told him that it was related to his past life, whose memories he still hasn't got completely and would take 2 more years approximately. But sometimes he wondered, would he really like his past life more than this? As the kids were explaining why Usopp visited the mansion and lied to cheer the sick girl, Zoro was the only one to notice that Luffy was lost in his thoughts and didn't look too good about whatever he was thinking, but he didn't say anything. Once they reached the mansion, the kids showed them the secret entrance that Usopp uses on daily basis. They found the long-nosed teen easily once they got through the bushes. A girl was on window laughing at something Usopp had said from the base of the tree. Captain, the three kids chorused together. Yeah, Captain, Usopp said, nodding his head confidently as he was too engrossed in the story which he was telling. But then it clicked and he looked at the other side to find his 3 friends, and the pirates which were of no threat in Kaya's garden. Why are you all here? He asked, with his eyes bulging out a little. This guy told, Pain said, pointing to Luffy, who was standing with a cherry-sweet grin. Who is that? Kaya asked, peeking outside of the window to look at the intruders. Oh, so, you are the miss, Luffy said, waving his hand to Kaya and giving his signature smile, which Kaya returned, feeling a warmth surging through her. Before she could reply though, Usopp spoke. These suckers here have heard the rumors and traveled the long and tiring road to reach me. No way. Luffy quickly shot down Usopp's words. We have a request to you. A request? The girl asked, confused. To me? He means, we need to ask a favor, Nami said, correcting the boy, who replied, that's what I said. We want a big huge boat. What are you doing here? A stern voice cut Luffy off from finishing his request. You're trespassing and causing problems for us. Usopp turned his head away from the butler in disgust. He never liked him, cause he would always chase him out even if Kaya never wished so. Clador, these people are… The girl tried to explain before being cut off by the man in black suit. I do not care, the butler, Clador said, interrupting the mistress of the house. If there is a reason, I will hear it afterwards. He looked at the kids before him. Please leave, all of you. Or do you have something to say? Luffy, who didn't concentrate on the feeling of cruelty rolling from the man, said, yeah, I want a boat. No, Clador replied without missing a beat, making Luffy make circles on the ground and Zoro hovering over him to give assurance. Clador then looked at Usopp, who was trying to hide his face from him. You there, Usopp? I have heard the rumors about you. You have quite a reputation in town. Oh, thank you, Usopp said confidently with a grin even though beads of sweat rolled from his forehead. Luffy, hearing the tone of Clador, stopped sulking and looked at the man, feeling the bad feelings radiate from him, and hence not liking the man at all now. You may call me Captain Usopp, if you wish to show your respects. The guards tell me they catch sight of you around here every once in a while, Clador said, lifting his glasses with his palm. Is there a reason for that? Ah yes. Well, you see, I saw this legendary mole burrow under the mansion, so I went searching. Usopp's lies were cut short by Clador's mean laughter. I see that you certainly do like to lie. What? Usopp said, getting nervous. I have heard about your father, as well. Clador continued. You're a son of a filthy pirate. I wouldn't put anything past you. Do not come near the mistress anymore, Clador said, lifting his glasses again in his iconic style. Pirate? Luffy mumbled and wondered why the name Usopp seemed so familiar to him. Did you say filthy? Usopp asked angrily. You and the mistress live in different worlds. Clador continued, even if no one was liking it, including Kaya. Is it money you want? How much? Not able to handle any more insults to Usopp, Kaya shouted. That's enough, Clador-san. Apologize to Usopp-san now. But no, Clador refused to apologize, getting on Usopp's nerves. Luffy didn't like the emotions which he was feeling from Clador. One might think that the butler just was wishing the best for the mistress, but Luffy didn't feel a bit of respect or care for the mistress within Clador. All he felt was negative emotions. When Clador crossed the limit which Usopp couldn't handle, Usopp's demeanor changed. He no longer was a teen with shaking legs or beads of sweat rolling from his forehead. He no longer was a scaredy guy. He was a brave person defending his dad. Usopp punched the man with all the strength and anger he could muster. The punch wasn't strong, but it was enough to prove his point. See that? So quick to violence, like father, like son, Clador spat from the ground. Be quiet. Usopp shouted at the top of his lungs. I'm proud that my dad is a pirate. I'm proud that he is a valiant warrior of the sea. Just as you say, I am a troublemaker, but I cannot pretend that I'm not proud of my pirate blood. I am a son of a pirate. Luffy's eyes widened as finally recognition set into him, despite the anger which seemed to be crawl on his skin. The one who was in front of him, defending his dad, was none other than Usopp, the son of Usopp, the best sharpshooter he had known till now. You said pirates are brave warriors of the sea, Curo spat, lifting his eyeglasses with his palm. Curo stood up, dusting his dirt-laden pants, and continued to speak ill about Usopp and his dad and how Usopp only wanted money from Kaya. I dare you say that again, Usopp yelled, holding Kuro's collars and ready to punch him again. There was so much anger and so much panic in the air. Luffy tried to focus on the plain emotions coming from Zoro, feeling better bit by bit. Eva always told him to focus on positive emotions whenever he faces angry or sad ones. Usopp-san, please stop, Kaya yelled when Usopp raised his fist again to punch Clador. Clador isn't a bad person, Kaya started crying. She liked Usopp and liked Clador too. They were both a part of her life. She would never want to choose one of them, and right now they were fighting, which she hates. He is just concerned about me. That's why he's little extreme. Get the hell out of here, Clador said, slapping away Usopp's hands from his collar. Savages like you are not welcome here. I'll let you off this time, but I warn you, don't come here again. Fine, Usopp said, walking away. I'll leave even without you telling me to. I'll never come back here again. You bastard, Captain is not the kind of person. Yeah, stupid. Baka, the three kids shouted to the butler, and Luffy joined their fray to insult the butler. Zoro's sweat dropped as Luffy yelled that he will kick his ass. He literally had to hold the boy to control him. He sighed, thinking where he is stuck. All of you, get the hell out of here now, Clador shouted, losing his patience on them. Luffy blew raspberries at the man before stomping off to the direction Usopp went. Zoro followed his idiot captain, not wanting him to get lost or get in trouble. As much as he has seen him, he always gets into trouble without him. Nami followed them, not sure about where to go, and the little kids went off to their homes before entering the forest which led to the cliff. After a few minutes of walk, they reached the shore. Your dad is Usopp, right? Luffy said, sitting beside Usopp, dangling his legs from the cliff. Nami sat beside him, keeping an eye on him, in case the teen falls. Zoro leaned next to a tree, seeing the ocean and listening on the conversation. "How do you know that?" Usopp asked in shock. "I've known him since I was a kid," Luffy said as he closed his eyes and remembered the last time he met everyone. "Really? You know my dad?" Usopp asked curiously. Zoro smiled as he saw Luffy bringing smile on Usopp's frowny face. "Yup," Luffy chirped. "You look just like him. No wonder I felt you look familiar." "Where is he now?" Usopp asked, turning to Luffy fully. "He is in the New World sailing with Shanks," Luffy answered truthfully, unaware of the confusion swelling within the listeners. "New World?" Nami questioned. "Shanks? As in?" Usopp added his question. Zoro opened one eye to look at Luffy, wondering if he would supply something. His captain was mysterious. "The second part of Grand Line is New World," Luffy answered to Nami, making her question how he knows that, but he ignored that and answered Usopp's question. "Akagami Shanks, the Yonko." "He's with Akagami Shanks and you've met him?" Usopp asked with wide eyes, and Nami looked as shocked as Usopp. Even Zoro was speechless. "How do you know him? When did you meet him?" Usopp asked, but instead of answering him this time, Luffy felt someone down below the cliff. He shushed everyone who wanted to shower him with questions and leaned forward, and he was right. It was that butler down there with someone else. Together the little group watched the butler interact with a weird man with weird Sungear plan of attacking the village and killing Kaya to take over her inheritance. Luffy was about to shout on the guy, but Nami luckily stopped him from shouting out, having her hands on the idiot's mouth. Luffy wondered how easily he forgot the skills of being quiet in a mission which Sabo, Ace, Koala and Hack had drilled within him. After the two pirates, Curo and Django, parted their ways, the group sat there taking in the information. "We have to do something. We can't let them kill Kaya and attack the village," Usopp screamed as he walked in circles before sitting down with his hands on his face. "I love this village. I can't let them die." "We'll make sure nothing happens to them," Luffy said, sitting up from his position. "That's Curo of 100 Plans, captain of the Black Cat Pirates," Usopp told the others. They have all heard how Curo had escaped his death and how he was here. Luffy placed a hand on his shoulder and gave him a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I will beat him for you." "That's right, we have got this," Zoro said with a grin, hands on his sword. "I'll leave the fighting to you guys. I'm going after treasures," Nami said with a grin. "But we don't know from where they will be coming from," Usopp told, getting up and pacing around. A part of his mind was telling him to rush back to the village and tell the villagers and Kaya, and a hand on his shoulder stopped his thoughts from going hayway. He turned to look at Luffy, who had a serious expression on his face. "Don't worry. We will figure it out. But I feel they will be coming from that side," Luffy said, pointing out to the other shore from where he was feeling lots of people. The winds confirmed him by telling him about the pirate ship which was docked nearby that shore. "That's where our treasures are," Nami screeched and began running to the place where their boats were. The others followed her. "How do you know that?" Zoro asked curiously. His captain knew things which were impossible to know. The more Zoro was getting to know Luffy, the more Luffy was getting mysterious and making him confused. "Felt it," Luffy said with a shrug. "Felt it?" Usopp and Zoro asked together at Luffy, who simply nodded, ending the conversation as he ran gleefully to the other side. They sighed, hoping that Luffy wouldn't be wrong with his feelings. They reached the top of the slope where Luffy said the pirates would come and found Nami hiding the sack of treasures. Luffy went onto their boat and carried his backpack. He didn't want the mean pirates to get hold of his precious things. "So, we will protect this slope," Usopp said as they sat in circles to discuss their plan. Luffy replied, looking out at the ocean and seeing the waves rising a little. "We can sleep here tonight," Zoro supplied, adding his thoughts, "and be ready when they come." "That's easier said than done," Usopp mumbled, and Nami agreed. Buggy pirates were another case, as the fodder crew members didn't dare to fight, but here they would be against a whole pirate crew. "What are you guys good at?" Usopp asked, mentally making a plan. "Cutting, stretching, stealing, hiding. You have to fight too," Zoro and Nami shouted, bonking Usopp on the head. Luffy laughed at his crew's antics and looked at Usopp. He was a lot braver than he gave himself the credit for. "You can do it," he said, patting Usopp's back. Usopp looked away, embarrassed. Someone younger than him was fighting, and if he doesn't fight then he will be a joke. He can fight. Thanks," Usopp told him, before remembering that he needs to warn the villagers and Kaya. It was late evening when Usopp arrived, all bloodied and battered. He hid his tears to show himself as more manly, but that failed when Luffy stated, "You are hurt." The other two looked at him, squinting their eyes to see the blood seeping through his arm, which was bandaged poorly. Nami provided him with first aid, as Usopp told how no one believed in him because all he did was tell lies till date. Unable to hide anything, he told how the villagers chased him down, how his little crew even felt betrayed at his words, and how Kaya didn't believe him. They sat in the tranquility of night, wondering how the fight tomorrow will end. All the while Luffy kept looking at the ocean waters like a child. Slowly, one by one, Usopp, Nami and Zoro fell asleep. He got up from where he was laying and walked down to the shore, his legs gently being caressed by the cold waters, but it was enough to make warmth explode within him. Without thinking anymore, Luffy stepped in his mother's arms, welcoming the love, gentleness and care echoing in the waters. Zoro was never the one who would sleep so deep like he had slept last night. The last memory of his was that he had sensed some movements from where Luffy was once sleeping. He sighed, wondering if he was relaxing a lot. He got up and stretched his limbs. His eyes went over to look at his friends and found one was missing, which has to be obviously Luffy. Zoro sighed deeply, wondering if that idiot has found himself in a problem once more. But he didn't need to worry anymore when the boy entered his vision. "Good morning." Luffy greeted Zoro and the others who started to wake up too. Oddly, Luffy's hair and face had some sand on it, which no one questioned knowing the team's childishness. "The sun is up," Usopp said in a low voice, taking in the few moments of peace. "The pirates are going to come soon," Nami added as she stood up to observe the morning sun and the shore for any signs of the pirate ship. "They are finally here," Zoro announced after a while as the ship started to enter their vision. The pirate flag of the Black Cat Pirates in full display. "So we are going to fight," Luffy said with a grin stretching on his face. "And loot them blind," Nami added cheerfully, even if some amount of fear crawled onto her in the thought of facing pirates. Luffy turned to his crewmates. "Here's the plan, Usopp. You stay behind and cover us. Zoro, you get to fight. And I will help Nami get treasures." These pirates were far too weaker for him to handle them, and Luffy didn't like to fight fodders, so he would rather go roam in their ship or help Nami collect treasures. "Oh okay," Usopp stuttered, his legs shaking as the horde of pirates jumped off the ship with their weapons. "Take down those kids and attack the village." The weird man from yesterday yelled at the pirates after seeing the 4 teens. "We don't have time." "Let's go," Luffy announced with a wide grin as everyone took their position. Usopp took a step back and started firing at the pirates. At beginning his legs were shaking, but his aim never faltered. Luffy and Nami started running downwards, aiming for the ship and knocking out the pirates in their way. Zoro used the blunt side of his blades to hit the pirates who tried to run past him easily, and Usopp covered everyone's backs. After a while, all the pirates were down for the count except for the weird goatee guy. "Hey, you idiots," Django, the weird guy, said, taking out his pendulum. "Don't tell me you guys are finished just from those pathetic blows from the fools." At those words some of the pirates started getting up, feeling ashamed and angry. "We don't have time to waste here." "Look at my pendulum," the strange man said to his crew. "After I say, 1, 2, Django, you will become stronger, and your wounds will heal." "What's that guy doing?" Luffy asked curiously, looking at the pendulum which Django was showing around. "I dunno," Zoro stated from his side, looking at the fallen pirates. "It must be hypnotism. He is trying to make them think that they're stronger," Nami supplied as she looked away from the rain. 1, 2, Django, UWOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOOO Nami gasped in shock. They were all shaky just a while ago. Nami flinched as she saw a pirate punch a rock and break it into pieces. Even Zoro was shocked and Usopp started trembling, not wishing to fight them at all. How did they gain so much strength? Zoro asked with confusion. They have really been hypnotized, Nami shrieked in fear. If just one guy can crush the rock, Usopp started but was unable to finish as a rumble of thunder echoed in the skies, halting every pirate and making them flinch at the loud rumbling. What the heck? Nami shouted. There were no signs of any storms to come right now and this one doesn't even look good. The temperature had also suddenly dropped, giving her goosebumps all over the body. The sky was turning blood red, and streaks of lightning, which were starting to form in the sky, were announcing the arrival of a blood-sucking thunderstorm. It was a terrifying sight. The pirates below started screaming, fear engulfing their whole body. In all this commotion, a faint beating of drums was heard, which started getting louder and louder and louder, making Zoro, Nami and Usopp turn towards the source and find Luffy, who was all still. Luffy? Zoro asked, but his eyes widened at what he saw next. Luffy's hair strands were getting whiter and whiter slowly, and if that didn't scare the shit out of Usopp and Nami, then the fact that his hair, which was starting to float, made them want to crawl under a stone and never get out. The feeling that they were standing before a predator who could skin them alive scared every one of them. Luffy was standing still, no one could see him moving a single muscle even. He seemed to be glowing too. It was so bizarre, and then all of a sudden he started laughing. Shi. Luffy's no Nika's laughter rang amid the thundering clouds, which made everyone cover their ears, trying their best to block and protect their eardrums from exploding. His laughter was as loud as the thunder itself. Luffy's bangs lifted to show the reddish eyes that would haunt some of them for all their lives, but to some it almost looked mesmerizing and ethereal. Zoro didn't even know what he was seeing. He He didn't know if the person who was standing in place of Luffy was even him. Luffy was acting nothing like himself. He was laughing weirdly, with one hand on his stomach and the other covering his eyes, but still leaving a gap for the reddish eyes to peek through. Nika removed his palms from his eyes with a snap, making the onlookers feel that his hand didn't have any bones at all. It was a sight they thought they would never get used to. She. Nika laughed wild and free, as he looked at the weaklings which were begging him to toy with them. Let's have fun, Nika's voice boomed, with the black and red lightning sparking from his body. The clouds roared as if responding to his call and the ground freaking bounced under him, in the process flinging him to the pathetic excuse of pirates. The thunder played on his drum beats echoing throughout the shore, throughout the island, throughout the East Blue, throughout. Suddenly a huge wave crashed onto him, silencing the entire place where the life-taking, howling thunder once rolled. The sky started to clear away once more. The wave took Luffy with it to the shore, drowning him and silencing him. Unfortunately or fortunately, all the Black Cat pirates were knocked out. Nami's legs gave up as she fell to the ground, followed by Usopp, who was even scared to breathe. Usopp never in his wildest lies would be able to come up with anything more unbelievable than what he just saw. Zoro didn't falter. He couldn't falter. He wouldn't falter. It was his captain who got taken away by the waves just now. His captain is a kid, who doesn't even know how to swim. Zoro dashed to the shore. Never minding or caring about the pirates, he crushed along the way under his shoes and dove in to rescue the idiot. The only one who could give any answers to what the heck happened right here, just now. He didn't even care about the raging waves that tried to force him away from his captain. He was determined. He needed to save him. That's all he knew. TTH. WW what? W was that? Nami asked, her hands trembling and her body shaking intensely. She couldn't even muster to stand up on her own. That storm. It was not something natural. It was not predictable. It just came and then vanished all of a sudden when Luffy got taken by the waves. Did it have something to do with Luffy? No, it couldn't be. Luffy wasn't what she just saw, right? Usopp's teeth were clattering as he tried to comprehend what had happened. All he knew was that everything went from damn scary to hella scary. Curo, the man of 1,000 plans, who had just arrived the moment Django had used his hypnosis on the crew, had witnessed it all. The only thing that was keeping him standing was the tree which he was desperately clinging to. The fear that had echoed in his heart at the sight of the storm and the team's changed demeanor was something that he was sure to get as a nightmare for the rest of his life. He may not have gone to the Grand Line, but he had sailed the East Blue several times to know that storm was not a storm that should ever occur in any of the Blues or heck, even in the Grand Line. A part of his brain wanted him to run, to give away all the plans he had made for the last 3 years, to run from the kid who had turned hysterical. He couldn't fight him. He was nowhere near the kid's level who hid the vast power behind his small structure and childish self. Even if the kid, who was fetched by the swordsman from the grasp of water, would stay unconscious, there would be no way to get Kaya to right her well, as Django was unconscious with the other pirates and he wasn't sure if they would be waking up anytime soon. A shiver ran down his spine as the swordsman trekked to the cliff where his other friends were with the mysterious boy in his hands. The swordsman had a worried look on his face, screaming that something was wrong. A silent question broke through his mouth, breaking the silence which had dared to engulf him. Who is he? A little while later, when his mind was finally able to comprehend everything, he blamed the whole incident on the kid having a devil fruit because no other human being could do the things he had done. Was he even human? Everyone standing there questioned in their mind, when they were able to think of anything, why the weather went wild when Luffy got hypnotized. The situation didn't look good at all. Curo standing there was getting his edge and his blades ready to attack the teens who had dared to destroy his plans. Zoro, who was trying to wake Luffy up, and Nami and Usopp were crying out of sheer fear. This was the time Kaya took to come out, trembling, terrified of the storm that she had witnessed just moments ago, but she needed to come. Clador, stop. She shouted as much as she could, breaking Nami and Usopp from crying. The 3 kids who had led her here had wanted to hide as soon as the thunder had started, but they were Usopp pirates. They wouldn't be afraid of some petty storm. Usopp didn't need to think anymore. He didn't need to be terrified anymore. He ran to protect Kaya and his little crew, even if they didn't believe him yesterday. Kaya, why are you here? Nami got up on her own legs as the thoughts of treasures managed to fight the fear that was echoing in her body. She took one glance at Luffy, who looked adorable, not scary like he had been just a few moments ago, and ran to the ship after informing Zoro, who nodded and stood up after making Luffy lay nearby on the ground. Before the fighting could restart, which was only defeating Curo, Kaya tried to stop it, even saying that she was ready to give her inheritance to him if he'd stop and leave. Mary, her other butler, had explained everything to her after she found him bleeding in the house. Curo didn't want that and went on to explain his reason for wanting to kill her. Kaya surprised everyone by taking out a pistol and pointing it at Curo. She still tried once more to make Curo realize that what he was doing was wrong. She tried to make him remember the days they had spent together, but all Curo said, he hated those moments. He detested them. Kaya was heartbroken after she heard that Curo never enjoyed her company and that she was just a burden to him. Usopp couldn't take it anymore as Curo continued to make Kaya cry and moved forward to punch him, only for Curo to dodge him. "Still haven't thanked you for the punch you gave earlier," Curo said with a smirk and ran to attack Usopp, but was met with Zoro, with his 3 swords out. "If you really want someone on your level, fight me," Zoro told through the swords in his teeth. Curo gave a mean laugh as he stepped back, twirled the blades in his hands and said, "Die." "No way," Zoro said and glanced momentarily to take in the position of everyone. Usopp was in front of Kaya. Trying to defend her from Curo, and Nami was well hidden in the ship looting it, and Luffy, he was unconscious. Before Zoro could focus on his opponent once again, Curo vanished in thin air from his sight and random scratches started appearing everywhere. Whenever a slash would come too close to Kaya and Usopp, Usopp would take the blunt, making Kaya scream for his well-being. It was the time, which made everyone feel that Usopp was brave, but he didn't even know it himself. Zoro gritted his teeth as he tried to focus on Curo, even if he got scratches running on his shoulder or his chest. Blood wasn't his worry, but the defeat that it would bring to him was something he wouldn't be able to handle. He tried to focus again on the winds, on the sounds, on the footsteps, even if they were difficult to follow. His captain was down for the count, so he needed to take care of the butler in his place. He needed to finish the battle so he could get Luffy the medical help he needed. Ah, a sound of groaning came, making Zoro turn towards the kid who had lost control just a few minutes ago. "What happened?" Luffy groaned, feeling that he has a migraine coming, hurting his head. "Luffy," Zoro said in relief. He was scared when he found him, when he was not breathing. He had thought to tell Nami later about it, but it looks like it won't be required now. "Zoro." Within a flash, Luffy was up and at his back, holding something, or rather a particular someone who had tried to stab him at his back. Zoro didn't know how Luffy could still move, let alone that faster, but decided that's not what he's supposed to be focusing on. "How interesting," Curo said, hiding the fear that threatened to eat him whole at the sight of the kid. He couldn't believe that the kid was up and fighting. He's truly a monster. "Why, you are up? Don't you dare touch my nakama," Luffy said, punching the scared man to the ground, finishing the fight in an instant. Zoro thanked Luffy mentally, but also noted that he needed to train more, to protect himself and others, if he wanted to be anything. To be the strongest swordsman in the world, he shouldn't rely on his childlike yet mysterious captain. Before he could give in to his thoughts completely, Luffy stumbled. Zoro's eyes widened comically. Luffy, Zoro, Usopp, and Nami screamed together as a paler Luffy kissed the ground. Zoro felt awful that he couldn't stop his captain from crashing to the ground. He thought that Luffy was alright now. "We need a doctor," Kaya said with her trembling hands going up to cover her mouth. "No doctor." Luffy didn't want that. He couldn't let that happen. He felt tired, so he stuttered as he finally gave into the abyss of unconsciousness. "What do you mean, no doctor? You need medical help, dumbass," Nami yelled at Luffy, even though the same kid could kill her off in an instant. In all this, no one saw the huge wave engulfing the Black Cat pirates. A mother showing her anger to them for pushing her son to something which he wasn't ready at all. "And he is out again," Zoro said with a sigh, lifting the kid, who obviously fears doctors. He checked his breathing and fortunately he was. He didn't want to leave him like he did last time. Nami reprimands him for checking his breathing but was surprised when she touched Luffy's skin. His skin was burning. It was very, very hot. Luffy got a fever somehow. "I know a doctor," Kaya said as she stood beside the 3 kids who were helping her. "Let's go," Nami replied. As much as she was scared of whatever Luffy did and is, she couldn't think of abandoning someone she thought of as a younger brother. She won't let him down. Like her own sister. They went to the village doctor, who went wide-eyed the second he placed his stethoscope at Luffy's heart, making the rest of them scared about the kid's condition. What happened, doctor?" Nami asked, her eyes trembling in fear. It was really scary how she had become attached to the young teen in just a few days. The doctor let out a nervous laugh as he replied, "Nothing, my hearing is just getting a bit bad since I'm old. That's all. There was no way a heart could beat like this. It's a pattern that he never heard of. No way a heartbeat is like what he heard. It's just his old age and his old instruments who are at fault here." That reassured the ones there, and the doctor went off to pick a thermometer to check the boy's temperature since he could feel that the teen's temperature was high through touch only. His thermometer reading went outlandishly high the moment it came in contact with the teen's body. "Okay, I have not used it for years. It is obviously damaged," he assured himself as he thought of the next test to do on the kid, blood test. Nami was really starting to think that the doctor was a fraud. None of his instruments were working and Luffy needed immediate medical attention. The doctor left to retrieve a syringe. He found one and started to extract some blood for testing. Everyone's eyes widened and some gasped as the red and golden blood emerged in the syringe. The golden blood reminded everyone of the sun, which always shone bright. The blood in the syringe almost looked ethereal and breathtaking, but there were other issues to think about rather than admiring it. What the heck is that?" Usopp shrieked. Kaya gasped as she tried to lean at the wall, not knowing what to do at all. Is he dying? Nami asked, her eyes threatening to leak tears for the mysterious boy. His blood had gold in it? Does it mean he has a blood problem? She didn't understand. No way. Zoro whispered, with his eyes as wide as plates. Luffy. I am not sure about what's happening to the lad, the doctor finally stated, not knowing what to do with the teen who had all the wrong symptoms. Even if his eyes were betraying him due to his old age, he won't ignore that the others are seeing the same thing as him. The kid might have something that is unrecorded or something far more dangerous. But the first question is it infectious? Have you seen him having this disease earlier? Everyone turned towards Nami and Zoro. They had met the kid just a few days ago and they haven't seen anything like these. But all of a sudden things clicked to Zoro. I have seen him bleeding that once, but there were only golden trails, not like this, Zoro said in a low voice, clearly remembering the golden trail which he had passed as sunlight shining on his captain, who had an aura similar to the sun. The major concern was that the golden part in Luffy's blood had somehow increased. I have also seen but never golden, Nami said with trembling lips. That won't kill him, Zoro clearly stated. He had seen Luffy healing faster than any normal human can. This might be the reason Luffy bled golden with red blood and didn't want to see a doctor. Did he make a correct decision by disobeying his captain's orders? He is a kid and obviously kids hate doctors. That was the only reason he had carried him here. I need to remove. The doctor was cut off barking sound in his patient's body. He cleared his throat once the boy didn't move again. I need to remove the gold-looking blood. He needs a blood transfusion. No one said anything. Mainly because some were lost in their own thoughts and some were too panicked to say anything. Does anyone know what his blood type is? The moment the doctor tried to connect the bags and the instruments to his patient's body, the teen woke up with panic clearly written in his eyes. His eyes widened further as he saw the injection containing his blood. He snatched it instantly from the stunned doctor's hands, who tried to get that back from him and threatened to strap the unruly teen to the bed. Get lost! Luffy yelled at the doctor. He had promised to not let anyone see his blood until he was stronger, and yet here he was holding the evidence of his failure, of his blood which flows in his veins, in his very own hands. I am just trying to help you, the doctor said with irritation, but Luffy could not allow the doctor to treat him even if he had good intentions. You are not helping me, old man, Luffy shouted, getting off the makeshift bed where he was laid onto. He looked at his friends, who were looking awkwardly at him. He wonders if he did something to make them not listen to his pleas of no doctor. Luffy. Nami spoke, her eyes shiny with the onset of tears. Are you dying? What? Luffy asked, calming a bit down. It made him realize that they were only worried for him, not scared of the thing he is. I am not dying. Then your blood? Zoro asked. It has always been this way since I was born, Luffy said, defending himself and getting out of bed. Since he has been born centuries and centuries ago. Since his dad and mom brought him into existence. He looked at his hand, at the object which was pricking him. He had subconsciously broken the syringe because of the stress he was feeling. The broken injection in his hand, his blood painting his palms. The concentration of the golden color had increased. It was freaking increasing. All of a sudden he could only see his blood. 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 Corpses. Dead body. He needs air. It's too suffocated here or he will throw up. He needs to get to his mother, who knows what to do right now. He messed up, just like before. He hears his mother calling for him. He hears his siblings trying to calm him down. He hears everything freaking speaking at the same time. The wind. The sun, the forest. The trees. The animals nearby. His mom. His sibling. His crew. His friends. The doctor. Literally everything. He is gonna throw up. He needs to get out. He needs air. Ocean. Mom. 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 He left the room and dashed to the shore, taking in the air and trying to calm himself. Trying to feel in control over himself. Trying to control over the voices. Trying to exclude the voices. He shakily sat down on the shore, his arms wrapping around his legs, which got wet due to his mother. He couldn't afford to give more to anyone than they have already got today. He can't. He has a promise to keep. He keeps promises. Breathe, Nika. His mother's soft yet commanding voice rang in the air. His rasping broken breaths, his shivering body, his teary eyes, his sniffling, his actions all halted as he followed his mother's words, breathing in and out. In and out. In and out. Ignoring the panicking words of his friends, who followed him down out of concern. He was not there, not lonely, not forced to be away from his friends, not seeing the dead and rotting corpses of the one who relied on him for their living. He was not before. It was the first time he had disobeyed his father's orders of not abandoning his duties. It was the first time he stepped on the mysterious planet where his mother, his siblings and many other mysterious creatures resided. It was the first time he was feeling so free and roaming around aimlessly. Humans are creatures who are smart and call themselves. Animals were the creatures who ventured on the planet alongside them. Birds were the creatures who could fly. Everything around him was so fascinating and colorful to him. He kept moving from one place to another in search of new things. in search of exciting adventures on the lands which his siblings promised him to show. He even made friends. The animals loved him whenever he would try to play with them. Some humans looked at him with awe while he looked at them with the same fascination, if not more. He even made friends with several of them. Some were the biggest he had ever seen, while some looked so tiny and adorable. Some even had elongated arms and some long legs. Some even had flames flickering on their back. They all looked so unique and so cool that he could never resist himself to make friends with them and elongate his stay. Time passed and soon months passed of his stay on the planet, and he acknowledged that despite being the most exciting place he had ever been to, some creatures were dominated by others, which he couldn't bear to watch, and hence punched them square on their faces and thus freeing the oppressed. But sadly everything has an end, and it came when he got to some other place. It was all dark, with no signs of life anywhere. He was walking aimlessly until he stepped on something or someone. It was a dead body of a child. It made him angry, unsure of who committed such an act. The next second his dad appeared before his eyes, making him take a step back. "This is why I told you to never abandon your duties," he yelled, making him finally realize that the deed was none other than his own. He felt sick in his stomach, throwing up whatever he had eaten just a few hours ago. His legs collapsed and he puked more as he took in the sheer chaos and destruction he had brought by his selfish actions. Tears streamed from his eyes as he was made to look into the bony figures of humans, animals and birds alike. It was all his fault. If he would have never come down. If he would have never stayed this long. If only he could do something. "It's all your fault," his dad scolded him, taking him to other places where he had caused destruction. Even the places where the sun was shining had people dying out of thirst, dying out of lack of food due to their crops getting destroyed. Some places even caught up in wildfires due to the dryness. The blood of everyone who had died was on his hands. Even if his mother tried to defend him, tried to take his side, tried to assure his dad that it would all be fine, that everything will be okay, things will change, but he couldn't feel the strength within himself to forgive himself. After a lot of arguing, in which he sat through listening and crying, like the youngest brother he was in the family in the arms of his siblings. Crying like a child for something he destroyed. But this time he had destroyed life. He had killed many. He hadn't destroyed a part of the sun as he had done many centuries ago and created the moon accidentally. He had killed. Their blood was on his pale hands. On the hands he used to live to free creatures from their oppressors. He killed them all. Nika, his racing heartbeat got into the rhythm he loved. He took a stuttering breath as he took in everything. His mother's calm and relaxing sprinkles on his face, and his worried friends, who were trying to get him to respond. He took in everything, finally calming himself. He could feel Zoro's concerns, Nami's curious and worried eyes on him, and Usopp's clear discomfort and the feeling of uncertainty and fear lingering in the atmosphere. When Luffy ran away from the doctor, Zoro was the first to run after the teen, his captain. Nami, the second, cause she was worried and scared if Luffy was lying about his illness. Usopp couldn't decide if he should follow them or not. On one hand the kid had scared him shitless, and the other, he had saved the village with whatever he had done. One look on Kaya said that she wanted to go but she wouldn't be able to. Making up his mind, Usopp also ran, commanding the three kids to look after Kaya and then running off to Luffy, who was crouching near the shaking badly. The sounds of harsh breathing were coming from the teen as Zoro and Nami stood a bit away from him to give him some space. "Is he okay?" he asked in a scared voice, but was shut off by Zoro's glare, which clearly meant that he could see it for himself clearly. Nami was biting her lips, unsure of what to do. She wanted to help the boy, even if she was scared of him. Her mental debate ended when she heard a heartbreaking sob from the boy. She gathered up her courage and took a step forward, flinching when she heard a sniffle and saw the tears that were streaming down the adorable face. "El Luffy?" Nami said in a low voice. She wasn't a doctor, but she could clearly tell that the kid was having a panic attack. Was it the reason he hated going to doctors? Did they really shouldn't have taken him there? No response came, but Luffy's breathing was getting rapid, getting unsteady, and getting abnormal. For a moment she feared that he would choke on his own breath and tears. "Luffy," Nami repeated, crouching next to the boy, "you need to breathe slowly." Nothing. No improvement. No change. It felt as if Luffy wasn't able to even listen to her. She really wished to help him, but if she touched him right now, then there were chances it would make things worsen further. Hey Lu Luffy, Usopp joined her, taking a seat near him, even if he was a good distance away from the boy, who could kill him anytime. There are no doctors now. You will be okay. Usopp stuttered out. He was only there because a part of him felt that he needed to be here. Needed to be with the boy without whom Curo wouldn't have been defeated. Without whom his village would have been slaughtered and Kaya would have been killed. No response. Only a low sniffle. But there was a bit of improvement. Luffy was beginning to breathe slowly, breath normally. Zoro sat down on the sand just beside Luffy, giving him silent support. There were no movements for some time. No sniffles. Luffy wouldn't even look up from the shell he made himself trapped in. Until his mother's voice broke him out of his thoughts. He was not in the past. Not in a memory that he wasn't supposed to go through right now. He was in the present. No one had died due to him, and no one will die anytime soon. Luffy silently leaned on Zoro's shoulder, placing his head there. It took him a moment to come to himself and hear everyone's concerns, even if no one was speaking. "Are you okay, now?" Zoro seemed to silently ask him while Usopp stuttered the same thing and Nami looked relieved. Thanks," Luffy said in a low voice, feeling his throat dry and hoarse. What happened?" Usopp asked, and Luffy could feel fear coming from the very statement. "Nightmare," Luffy whispered. It would have gone almost unheard if they were a bit away from the teen. "Want to share?" Nami asked, placing a hand on his shoulder. Luffy shook his head, not wanting to even remember the past right now. A few minutes of silence went by. Thousands of questions were swirling within everyone. Luffy could tell. They were eager to ask something, but what? "What happened to Curo?" Luffy asked, breaking the silence. His memory was blurred after seeing the weird guy do something, and all he remembers is asking his friends to not take him to a doctor. What? Usopp was the first one who asked in shock. "What happened after that weird guy used his ring?" Luffy repeated again, standing on his own and stretching. He was feeling better now. "What do you mean?" Nami asked, puzzled as she looked at him with wide eyes. "Don't you remember?" Luffy honestly shook his head. Everything was hazy and a blur. "Storm? Your hair turning white and floating? The ground bouncing under your legs and flinging you like a rocket. Your eyes changing to red color." The three of them said together, making Luffy blink his eyes. As much as he remembers, he doesn't have the powers to turn to his that form. "You three are joking," Luffy said with a laugh as he started walking towards the town. He is getting hungry. "What do you mean we are joking?" Nami screeched, making Luffy turn towards her. "'Cause I had lost that ability a long time ago," he said, flashing a grin. He won't say that he missed it, but it was relaxing that he didn't need to be lonely. Didn't need to have burdens of duties or responsibilities. In those thoughts he missed his mother's sad waves rolling on the shore, the hushed whispers from his siblings, and the glances that his friends shared. Usopp was about to speak again, but Zoro shook his head, stopping anyone from questioning further. Luffy said that if he had lost that ability, then that wouldn't be any of their concern unless he got hypnotized again. So it's better to forget it for now. "Man, I am hungry and you all didn't even tell me if we need to beat the bad butler," Luffy stated with a pout, acting nothing like a few minutes ago. It seemed that he never even had a panic attack. "He left," Zoro replied to Luffy honestly. "No way," Luffy said, puffing out his cheeks, back to his normal self already. "I wanted to kick his ass," he said, kicking dust with his legs. "Language, kid," Nami said, bonking his head and unknowingly falling into the usual routine. "Hey, I don't need to mind my language. I am a pirate, not a kid," Luffy said, puffing his cheeks out. How is this boy anyway harmful? Zoro, Nami and Usopp thought together. But they knew and have seen the undeniable truth. Usopp was facing the rest of the Usopp pirates, with a heavy heart. He was about to make a decision today. A decision that would definitely change his entire life. The thought of the pirate flag calling him, the thought of the sea calling him for the adventures that resided beyond the horizon was mind-blowing. The risks that came with his ambition were also higher, but one thing Usopp had learned from the pirates who had helped him save his village was that with risk comes adventure. He was going to start his own soon enough, and here was the work in his hand before him. He had already completed one part of the work, where he wanted to keep his status as the lair of the village, not one of the saviors, even if he had practically done almost nothing. The village didn't need to know anything about the pirates. They didn't need to worry about any pirates attacking again. The village is small and there is no chance any pirate crew would attack it. "Captain Usopp, what is it that you wanted to talk to us about?" Ninjin, the boy whose hair hid his eyes, asked curiously. "Oh, yes, you're all here," Usopp said, breaking out of his thoughts. "You guys were brave enough this morning to come to the coast and protect Kaya there. It was a battle worthy of the Usopp pirate group. I am very proud as the captain." Usopp was really proud that despite the fear of the bloody storm that had summoned itself, the kids had tried to help Kaya. Tried to check on her, and he will forever be grateful for that. 5 years ago, Usopp said, reminiscing the day. "We formed the Usopp pirate group when you guys were 4. We fought many things together, and this was the greatest and the most magnificent battle we have experienced in those 5 years." With his hands crossed over his chest and his eyes looking straight at the clouds, he said, "And now, I have decided to go to the sea by myself. I'm going to become a real pirate." The 3 kids gaped at Usopp, not believing the words that he spoke. "What? Captain? No way. After seeing them, I decided to leave this village. There is only one reason, because the pirate flag is calling me," he declared with determination-filled eyes to his little ragtag group of his. "Captain, that's also a lie, right?" Paimon, the helmet boy, asked in shock. "That's so sudden. Besides, don't you love this village, Captain?" Tamanegi, the orange-haired boy, asked. "What's going to happen to the Usopp pirate group?" Ninjin voiced his thoughts next. Thanks for everything, guys, Usopp said, not wanting to answer the boys. He was not lying this time, even if he was feeling scared and Ted. He loves the village but the sea more. I don't plan on telling the folks in the village. Say bye to them for me, Usopp said, turning his back to the three kids and looking at the horizon and feeling the call. No, I don't want to say that, don't go, Captain. The kids pleaded, not wanting him to go yet. They knew Usopp and his habits. They were worried for his safety, but Usopp didn't know. Usopp, with a soft smile, made them reminded of the days they spent together, chasing small things and making them seem as if they were great adventures. His eyes started burning as he continued speaking, even though the three kids asked him to stop. Usopp turned towards them finally and asked, "What are your life ambitions?" "To own a bar," Ninjin replied. "To become a master carpenter," Paimon declared next. "To become a writer," Tamanegi said the last. "While not losing sight of our ambitions, swear that you will go on the road you have chosen." Tears began to freely flow through each and everyone's eyes as they realized the inevitable was coming. Starting today, the Usopp pirate group is disbanded. Luffy didn't like the scary feelings that Usopp was emitting whenever he was near him. He wanted to hear a story and he had decided that Usopp would be the one who would tell him right now. "Nay, Usopp, Usopp," he chirped excitedly, bouncing on his legs as he approached Usopp, who was on his way somewhere. Luffy," Usopp stuttered out, acting confident, even if his shaking legs and the scary feelings deep inside him told Luffy otherwise. Luffy pouted. Usopp is his friend and no way in hell he should feel scared. "Can you tell me a story?" he asked with his bright grin and puppy eyes. It worked on everyone and right now he needed Usopp to chase away the scary feelings and be his friend. "What?" Usopp asked with wide eyes, his legs finally coming to a halt without shaking and the bad feelings getting replaced by shock, then confusion and lastly confidence. He pointed to himself and with a proud smirk said, "Of course. You have come to hear the great adventures of the mighty Usopp. I will definitely entertain you with my tales, one time." And Usopp launched himself into the story, narrating things animatedly, making Luffy gaze at Usopp with starry eyes and awe at his every word. He knew the man was telling lies, but he loved those. He loved the way he told the story. He wouldn't compare it to his mom, from whom he had been hearing stories of literally anything and everything since his birth, 'cause she was different. "And then with my powerful slingshot, I killed the giant starfish," Usopp proudly finished, raising his slingshot in the air and firing perfectly at the rustling leaf which was about to touch the ground. Luffy felt amazed at it and found Usopp's sharpshooting skills in the said boy. "Join my crew, Usopp." The fear was back in Usopp full force as he looked at the boy, who asked him to join his crew. His eyes were back to golden red and not red, which he had seen just in the morning. His legs began to shake violently as he struggled to move under those eyes. Those eyes scared him all, cause it felt like they could snatch away his life with just one blink. Usopp was scared, a lot. But thankfully, those reddish golden eyes vanished to give away the doe brown eyes which were too adorable on the team. The other color also looked adorable on Luffy, but those eyes held a lot of power which was definitely far beyond his imagination. Usopp was stuttering, not really knowing what to do. "You can tell me your decision by tomorrow," Luffy said, patting his back, making him flinch. Luffy noticed it but didn't say anything. "Luffy," Nami's voice interrupted their conversation, which Usopp thanked. He really needed it. The said teen gave him a wave and ran off to the orange-haired girl. Usopp was scared and that was what he knew. Luffy had a monster within himself that could kill him in an instant. His eyes could change to golden red or just red and then back to the brown doe eyes, and the mystery behind that scared him more. But the teen's thoughts were not of the type of a monster. When the teen had been told briefly of what had happened, Luffy instantly expressed his dislike for the Black Cat pirates and Curo. Especially the part where Curo had talked about killing his useless subordinates who were already lying unconscious. He had said, "I hate them." He was wrong. That's not how Nakamas should act. The teen had shown no hostility towards any of his friends. Even when he had done whatever and brought down the cat pirates, they were left unscathed, unharmed, conscious. It was a difficult choice to make and Usopp knew it, but he also had time in his hands and choices. He can either set off on his own or join Luffy. "Oh, so this is where you guys are," Kaya said, entering the restaurant where the three were: Luffy, Zoro and Nami, eating and drinking. "Hello, miss." Luffy greeted with a wave while Nami, who was sitting opposite of Zoro and Luffy, turned to look at the newcomer. "Are you alright being out of bed?" Nami asked, not wanting Kaya to get more sick. "Yes. My sickness was due to the loss of my parents which had occurred the last year. But Usopp-san encouraged me. I can't be weak for forever," she said with a smile, making the others return it. "You have done so much for me." "Thank you," Kaya said, giving a small bow. "I prepared a present for you from the bottom of my heart. It would make me happy if you accept it," she said with excitement, wanting to see how they would react. Luffy hopped off his seat, instantly wanting to see the present and wondering aloud if it was meat. That made everyone chuckle in the bar. Kaya led them to the shore, which left them with a smile each, at the sight of the actual ship with a ship figurehead waiting for them. A caravel. Nami exclaimed happily as she recognized the type of the ship instantly. Wow. Luffy said with awe, jumping up and down in his place and examining the ship caravel, which was already waiting for him to set sail on it. He could hear the soft whispers from it, speaking gently and calling for him and his friends to hop on and start a new adventure, a new chapter, a new journey towards freedom. That's cool. Zoro even complimented at the sight of their pirate ship, which was finally before them. Now, there would be lots of space for him to nap and train. He needs to train to become stronger. It's a slightly old style, but I designed it myself. It's a caravel and it uses a staysail. The controls are in the back, Mary explained, looking at the pirate crew, searching for the one who had defeated Curo and the Black Cat Pirates. Finally, his eyes landed on the savior who had defeated Black Cat Pirates and Curo. When his mistress described him as a boy, he didn't think that he was literally a boy. So it is you who defeated Curo and his pirate crew with Usopp-kun, Mary said, shock evident in his voice and face. He had really thought the boy to be bigger and have more muscles. But the boy was all lanky and looked weak. He really wonders if the guy with the 3 swords didn't beat the pirates and gave the credit to the kid. That was a possibility, but he knew his mistress wouldn't lie to him regarding these matters. Can we really have this? Luffy asked, ignoring the shock coming from the sheepman before him. Yes, I insist, Kaya confirmed, happy to see that the captain liked it. I will explain the steering system, Mary told as he turned to the kid captain, who crossed his arms over his chest and tried his best to understand. First of all, to adjust the yards about the crew garnet. Mary sweated as he saw the teen looking at him, but without understanding any word. Don't explain to him, Nami said, rubbing her temples. She was really contemplating if Luffy would be okay in the sea. When she would leave. Explain to me, he won't understand anyway. Luffy, taking the golden opportunity to escape from the boring explanation, walked away from them to Zoro and the mistress. I had everything you would need for a voyage loaded on the ship, Kaya told him when he kept ogling the ship and wanted to explore it right away. But Usopp was coming and he wanted to meet his friend and hear him. He wants Usopp to come with them, and have lots of adventure, and fun, and become brave like he truly is. Thanks for causing all the trouble, Luffy chirped happily, making Zoro shake his head with a sigh. Thanks for going through all the trouble, Zoro corrected his captain. Luffy cocked his head, not getting what he said wrong, and when he was about to voice it out, he felt and heard Usopp's screams coming from a big green something rolling towards them. Stop me please. The scream made everyone realize who was coming towards them now. Usopp-san, Kaya gasped, worried for her friend. What's he doing? Luffy asked, not understanding. Was it some kind of game? Like the rolling games that he played sometimes with some kids in the army base when he would want some fun, and his brothers, Koala, Hack, Kuma and his dad and Eva would be too busy to play with him. If Usopp was really playing without him, then Luffy was offended. I think we should stop him before he hits the ship, Zoro stated, breaking Luffy's pout and making him notice that Usopp was rolling closer and closer and radiating fear. Standing side by side, Zoro and Luffy both raised a foot, and when Usopp reached them, their feet were firmly in front of them, stopping Usopp from moving anymore. Thanks. Usopp mumbled, with the feet still on his face. No problem. They both replied in unison. You are really going to the sea, Usopp-san? Kaya asked once Usopp took off the bag from his shoulder. The others left them, giving them some time, and went off to take their things from their little boats. Yeah, I have to go before I change my mind, Usopp declared to Kaya, feeling sad inside. He would be leaving a friend, his crew, and the village. But in front of him was the sea, which was calling to him, the adventure that it was promising. He needed to go this time, otherwise he would regret it. Please don't tell me to stop. He didn't want to hear one more time that he shouldn't be going now. That would break him and make him shed his unshed tears. He didn't want to give Kaya that as a last memory of him for now. He will return after he becomes the great warrior of the sea. Till then, there should be only happy memories, no sad farewells for Kaya to think about. I won't, Kaya replied, making Usopp smile a bit. I figured you might do this, but it still makes me sad. When I will return, I will have lots of stories to tell you which would be more unbelievable, Usopp replied with a big grin. I will look forward to it, Kaya said with a smile. She will miss her friend, the storyteller, her savior. The one who showed her the path to be strong. Usopp finally turned to Luffy, who was waiting to hear his decision from the deck of the ship, looking at him curiously. He could tell that the boy wanted him and his crew. Even if he is scared of him, he still thinks of him as his friend. Even if he is dangerous. Even if he can kill him anytime. Usopp started, but he didn't know how to tell his decision. He needed to do this. He steeled his heart and took a breath as he looked at Luffy. I think I might. Why, you know, Jay joined. That was enough to make Luffy perk up. Woohoo, Usopp is coming with us, yay. That left Usopp shocked. He saw the teen run happily around Zoro and Nami and the deck, showing all of his happiness, all because Usopp decided to join him. Usopp grinned at the warm feeling that he felt and hoped for. To the new ship. To the new adventure. Alright, Luffy shouted as he lifted the black pirate flag with the symbol of their pirate crew on it, Our pirate flag is done. This was the symbol he had thought of when Ace had set off on his own and had made a cool pirate flag for his pirate crew. Oh, our symbol? Usopp asked with wide eyes. Luffy could still sense some fear radiating from him, but that will change soon and he will make sure of it. Calling him artistically challenged would be an understatement, Usopp mumbled, thinking that Luffy didn't hear it, but Luffy clearly heard it though he didn't mind it. This could be some sort of abstract art, Nami said, looking at the symbol carefully and thinking if she missed some details. A pirate's flag should be a symbol of death, but this flag is. Zoro wondered, crossing his arms over his chest. Well, it's quite terrifying in a sense. What'd you think? Luffy asked, his grin reaching his ears. He could feel the uncertainty they were feeling about voicing their thoughts, especially Usopp, who looked completely shocked at his drawing. Pouting, he looked at his drawing. It isn't that bad, he whined when no one's looked at his wrist, at the seashell bracelet Sabo gave him. It carried the symbol of the pirate flag he wanted to have. I know I didn't draw it well, like this, he said, pointing at his bracelet, but it looks good. Usopp finally took a hesitating step forward. I can draw it if you want. Luffy beamed and showed him the symbol that needed to be painted on the flag, and in no time Usopp was done with it. The perfect painting of the straw hat wearing a skull on the flag. That's perfect now, Nami said cheerfully at Usopp's handiwork. There we go, Usopp said confidently, giving a final brush to the flag. It doesn't look even remotely like the other one, Zoro pointed, comparing the two flags. Luffy didn't mind at all and said, that's great, draw one on our sail too. Yeah, well, I have honed my artistic talents by drawing on the walls of people's homes for years, Usopp stated confidently, holding the paintbrush. I'm quite a master artist, you know. Luffy had literal stars in his eyes as he inhaled Usopp's stories as he painted the sails. With this, our pirate ship, going merry, is ready for action, Luffy announced once Usopp completed the story and the painting of the sails with it. Usopp lay on the deck with Nami and Zoro basking in the sun and taking a break from their own work, when a loud sound rang through the air, making them straighten up in an instant. They followed the sound and found a rubber boy, who didn't know the meaning of rest, standing beside a cannon. What the heck are you doing? Zoro voiced out everyone's question with an annoyed tone. I'm testing if the cannon works or not, Luffy replied cheerfully. The last time he was on a ship, he wasn't allowed to be near cannons because, in one of their missions, Luffy had blown off the ship they were on by mistake, leaving the crew stranded and waiting for another ship to come and pick them up. But now he is a big man. He knows that cannons should be pointed at the target, not towards themselves. Testing? Usopp asked, looking at the cannon and then at the rock which was in the middle of the ocean. Yeah, hey Usopp. Try shooting with this, he said excitedly, wanting to see his sniper in action. Okay. Usopp agreed easily, making Luffy beam. After all, sniping was what he was best in. He did some mental calculations and then fired at the supposed target, making the upper half of the rock go off with a loud boom. I really hit it, Usopp muttered to himself, feeling surprised that on his first try, he did it. Oh no, Luffy gasped as his eyes widened. Nami, we need to head towards the rock, quick. Why? Nami questioned, getting up, only to be drowned by Zoro's question. Why are you shouting, Luffy? Zoro asked in a grumpy voice. It was the second time his nap had been cut off short. But the panic in Luffy's voice and face made him gulp down the complaints. We shot someone. What? Everyone asked with wide eyes. 2 guys. One is injured. Luffy replied, feeling the presence of the other guy waver. He killed someone, Usopp gasped, falling to his knees, looking with horror at the rocks. Nami and Zoro were already moving the ship, ignoring the mental breakdown Usopp was going through. Even though they sympathized with the teen, they couldn't do anything more in the situation. He is not dead, Luffy said, closing his eyes and feeling them coming towards their ship. How do you know? Usopp asked, getting on his feet shakily. He was really relieved that he didn't kill someone. Mystery power, Luffy replied nonchalantly, focusing on the average-sized boat with a small cabin and mast coming towards them. What's that? Zoro asked, leaning on the railing and looking at the ocean after doing his part of the job. Luffy didn't get to reply as a loud yell took their attention. You damn pirates. I'm gonna slaughter all of you. Zoro's eyes widened, recognizing the voice immediately. Usopp was stuttering. After all, it was his fault that the man was angry. Luffy plopped a hand on Usopp's shoulder, making him stop stuttering and try to compose himself. He mentally thanked his captain, before standing straight and ready to apologize when the man would come near. Johnny? Zoro spoke with wide eyes, as he took in the man with short black hair, sunglasses and a black tattoo on his left cheek. Zoro Aniki. The man's eyes widened and his grip on his sword loosened instantly. Where is Yosaku? Isn't he always with you? Zoro asked, looking at the boat in search of the other guy. Johnny gritted his teeth as he said the terrible words. Yosaku is sick. Sick? Yeah, he was just fine a couple of days ago, but all of a sudden he turned pale and kept passing out. I don't know what he's down with. His teeth have begun to fall out, Johnny said through gritted teeth and went into the cabin to bring out a bandaged Yosaku, who was looking way too pale. In this commotion, nobody saw Luffy getting inside the kitchen to get something. I was trying to at least let him get some rest on top of that rock, but all of a sudden, this ship fired a cannonball at us, Johnny finished, his palm on his eyes, rubbing the stray tears that leaked. I am truly sorry, Usopp instantly apologized, bowing down. It's fine. What's done is done, Johnny said in a retarded voice. Yosaku and Johnny. We were infamous enough to have pirates shaking in their boots at the mere mention of our name. We have lived and worked together for years. Is it all gonna end now? Zoro stood there shocked, not wanting to realize that one of his friends was lying on the deathbed. Here, Luffy arrived at the scene holding a glass of lemon juice and offering it to the laying man. Luffy, it's not time to joke around, Zoro said through gritted teeth. He knows that his captain is a dumbass, but he didn't take him as the type to tease a man who is in an awful condition. Kid, I won't let you go free if you dare to make a mockery out of my partner's suffering, Johnny said, standing up in an intimidating way, but it didn't do anything to Luffy, who was pouting at the anger they were feeling and wondering if he didn't remember the right thing. Oh God. Nami spoke for the first time, rubbing her temples. Luffy, go ahead, she said as she saw the momentary confusion in the teen's eyes. She really appreciates that the boy who doesn't look like he would know these kinds of stuff at least knows this. She placed her hands on her hips and glared at the bounty hunter and the swordsman. How thick can you both be? What did you say? Zoro asked with irritation evident in his voice. He is afflicted with scurvy, Nami replied. If we are not too late, then he should recover in a few days. Are you telling the truth, sis? Johnny asked, feeling hope for the first time in a while. In the past, it was practically a death sentence for sailors. It's caused by lack of nutrients found in fruits and vegetables. It was quite common back then because ships simply didn't have the technology to effectively store fresh fruits and vegetables for a long time, Nami explained. Are you a doctor too, Nami? Luffy asked with awe reflecting from her eyes. I knew that girl was special. Usopp's eyes never lie, Usopp said proudly, standing beside Luffy. If you are sailing, you should know this much at least, Nami yelled at the duo who were kidding around. She then turned towards Luffy, who had a goofy smile on his face, and said, God, who the hell knows how you knew about this even? Luffy puckered his lips and looked away, sweating, making Nami blink. I don't know, what you were saying, Luffy said, making others feel that Luffy is hiding something. But what was there to hide in these basic facts? That confused them all. But their attention snapped to the now energetic man, who was on the doorsteps of death earlier and had jumped up, completely disregarding his body. I'm charged up and ready for action, the man shouted happily. Haha, my partner is up now, Johnny shouted, jumping up with his fists in the air. Luffy GNG, the man had not recovered enough to still move. Stop moving. The people in the Revolutionary Army had drilled some basic facts about the life in sea in him, and he knows that normal people don't recover this soon after getting malnourished. Everyone watched Luffy shout like a little gremlin and scold the bigger man, who stood in a pose with the other man and was ready to introduce themselves. Sorry for the late introductions, the name's Johnny. And I'm Yosaku, the now up man, with a cigarette in his mouth, supplied them. Zoro used to bounty hunt with us in the past. Nice to meet you all, they said in unison. I don't know how to thank you, Yosaku said, bowing to Luffy, who wanted the man to lie down before he scares Zoro about his health. I thought I bit the dust for sure. Wool color me surprised. I never could have imagined the infamous pirate hunter to have become a pirate himself, Johnny said, looking at Zoro, who had his arms crossed over his chest. Buhee, Yosaku screamed in pain and fell, throwing up blood. Just rest up already, Nami and Luffy screamed at the man, who was now unconscious. That made things easier. Usopp showed them the guest room where they could rest up and meet with the others on the deck. Let this be a lesson to the rest of you, Nami said as she sat on the stairs. She mentally felt bad for telling you she was getting attached to the idiots, wasn't she? But she needed to leave, and then she won't be able to see the liar lie and tell stories to Luffy, who would believe every word of his. She wouldn't be able to see Zoro's small smiles and his protective streak towards Luffy. She wouldn't be able to make Luffy dress in different colors of clothes and different fashions. She would miss the widest smiles that she gets from the youngest the most. These are the kinds of dangers we'll have to face on long voyages, Zoro added a cent of his to the conversation, making Nami come out of her sadness. He would have died for sure if he hadn't come across us, Usopp said, looking at the sky from where he leaned on the mast. We definitely need one more crew member before we get to the Grand Line, Zoro said, looking at Luffy, who was rocking in his place where he sat cross-legged. Alright, I've decided then, Luffy said with a grin, making the others look expectantly at him. We need a musician. What? They yelled together, amazed by the sheer stupidity of their captain. We need a musician. It's the most bonk. Luffy's speech got interrupted by Nami, who decided that Luffy should get one, right now. We need a cook, dumbass, Nami said with her tooth getting sharpened edges. Oh, Luffy pouted, rubbing the bump on his head. He wondered how Nami could punch him when he is made of rubber. Bro, Johnny emerged on the deck, having heard half of the conversation. What is it, Johnny? Zoro asked, looking at the man, who had his hands raised high in the air. If you are looking for a cook, I know a place, the man said. But getting one joined is another matter. It's a restaurant on the seas, the Baratie. Baratie? Luffy repeated the word with excitement. He had heard the place from one of his mother's stories and the winds which bring news to him every now and then. It's a place with fighting cooks. He really was about to forget to visit the place, if Zoro's friend hadn't informed him about it. That's right. You should be able to reach it in 2 to 3 days. Johnny supplied. That place is also too close to Grand Line, so you gotta be careful. Lot of dangerous guys around those parts. Even that hawk-eyed man you've been looking for has been sighted once there. Johnny said the last words, instantly alerting Zoro, who was looking at Luffy doing a happy dance and carefreely shouting about food. Luffy sat on the figurehead of the Going Merry, looking at the endless ocean, and enjoying the little spray of saline water which sprinkled on his face. He enjoyed his mother's soft lullaby, trying to make him go to sleep, but he was sleepless. He was full of energy, hearing everything that the winds were bringing to him, hearing Ace's and Sabo's new exploits. It was one thing he loved doing. Knowing about his brother's well-being, who were reckless just like him, even if they were less, was something he loved. Time was closing on him, and he knew but didn't know why. It was just a feeling before that he needed to do everything before he couldn't do anything. But now the feeling is getting stronger and stronger slowly, telling him that he needs to enjoy as much as he can before he loses it all. But what would he lose? As long as it is not his freedom, his friends, his family, he is ready to give anything so that the feeling goes away, the uneasiness. Can't sleep? A voice asked, who he knew was Zoro. No, Luffy said in a gentle voice, which was so unlike the teen. How did you know that my friends were there? Zoro asked, leaning on the railing and looking at the reflection of the moon which shone with all its glory on the transparent water. The winds told me, Luffy said, his eyes never leaving the vast body of the ocean. Zoro turned his head towards the boy, who said the answer as if it was a fact. What do you mean? Zoro asked again. He didn't want to be nosy in his captain's business, but the fact that Luffy was back to be mysterious was something that Zoro couldn't handle. He wanted to piece the puzzles. There were too many questions that lingered in his mind, but the fact that Luffy saved his friends was something he was grateful for. She. Luffy laughed, the solemn atmosphere and mood all gone from the face of the teen. He laughed carefree and untroubled as if there was nothing that could ever think to stop him. Zoro thinks too much. Zoro turned to look at his captain, making his breath hitch in his throat. Red eyes not golden red which he swears he had seen were back and staring at his soul, making him freeze. No ill feelings were coming from the boy, but he knew that beyond those eyes was a power that he couldn't even imagine. When the time comes, you'll know Zoro. There was something else in his captain's smile. It was too big and, dare he say, a little strained. What was Luffy thinking? What is he, that makes him mysterious and gives such a powerful aura, that can make any enemy shudder in fear? Zoro could only nod at the answer which he was given. There was just this feeling that if he tried to ask something more and by chance, Luffy gave some absurd answer, he wouldn't be spared, especially when his captain is so naive and truthful. A cold chill ran down his spine, making him realize that all he felt was the truth.
The next day passed normally, Luffy trying to befriend Usopp, who had small scary feelings within him and trying to play with him. Zoro doing his usual trainings or napping anywhere he got a place. Nami making her sea charts and cooking in between. If someone asked why she was cooking, her only answer would be that growing kids need food, unlike grown-ups. So, yeah, Luffy was getting free meals from Nami, even if they were less and the others needed to pay for it.
Yosaku was resting in the guest room while Johnny made him useful by staying in the crow's nest and looking for the restaurant they were out to search for. We're finally here, Johnny shouted from the lookout the other day when the pink fish-type ship started appearing on the horizon. What do you think, everyone? So cool. Luffy was the first one to give any reaction to the ship, having stopped in his midway run from Usopp, who was it, and chasing after him. Whoa, Usopp said the next, colliding on Luffy and looking at the ship restaurant before him. It's lovely, Nami said, her hands clasped together. Not bad, Zoro said with a smirk, putting his swords back in their place. Just like we told you, right? Yosaku said, standing beside Johnny with a grin. Before anyone could reply, a sudden noise caught their attention to their other side. The Marines? Usopp squeaked as he was the first one to see the ship. I have never seen that pirate, flared Marine said from his ship. He was wearing iron knuckles in his hands. I'm the lieutenant of the Marine headquarters known as Iron Fist Full Body. Who's your captain? Name yourself. I'm Luffy. Luffy stepped forward with a large grin on his face. We just painted our flag 2 days ago. The Marine lieutenant blinked his eyes at Luffy in shock and then looked at the pirate flag and promptly burst into peals of laughter. What the fuck? Are you lot insane to declare a kid as a captain? The Marine laughed, insulting the kid's crew. I'm not a kid, Luffy yelled at the Marine with sharp teeth. Yeah, Yeah. The next you will say you're a god, the Marine said, wiping the stray tear that came out due to his pathetic joke. Shut up, Zoro growled beside Luffy, making the teen come out of his trance of staring with his wide owlish eyes at the Marine. It doesn't concern you. Whatever, the Marine said, reconsidering if there was a joke going on. Pirates are pirates regardless their ages. He mumbled to himself, before scanning the deck of the said pirate ship. Wait a minute, I think I have seen you two somewhere, the Marine said, looking at the bounty hunter duo, ignoring the glares he was getting from another pirate hunter. If I remember correctly, you're small-time bounty hunters, the Marine said with his hands in his pockets. Yosaku and Johnny. So, you two have been finally caught by pirates? He asked, raising an eyebrow at the duo. How pathetic can they be, if they were defeated by the small-time pirate crew, whose name and flag he even doesn't know? Hey, Yosaku, I think someone needs some kicking, Johnny said, looking at Yosaku. Well, we can't let him go away with this, even if it doesn't fetch a single belly. We need to teach him to keep his mouth shut, Yosaku replied, and with that, the two duo promptly jumped on Full Body, who was quick to beat them up and throw to the merry back. You sure you aren't super weak? Luffy asked, crouching down to them. This Marine just had a big mouth and not any real strength within him. And no, it's just that guy's not too shabby himself, Yosaku said through his bloodied self. It was a close one, Johnny tried to add his point. The hell are you two doing? Zoro asked, looking at his friends, who were sprawled on the deck. Darling, let's go now. An extra sweet voice came from the Marine deck, making the onlookers see a pretty woman holding Full Body's arm. Ah, yes, Full Body said, and then looked at the kid pirates once more. Consider yourselves lucky that I'm on break. He turned to the other Marines and ordered them to sink the boat. Yes, sir. That caught everyone's attention, and they went to the railing to see the cannon being pointed towards them. Usopp shrieked in terror while Nami's eyes widened and ran off to take cover with Johnny and Yosaku. She hesitated a bit, wanting to take Luffy too, but she remembered the freakish strength of the teen, who had defeated some good names of the East Blue with very little moves, and took off to hide. Zoro placed a hand on his sword, ready to fight with Luffy, but that wasn't required. He fired. Usopp shrieked, crouching down and holding his head with his hands. Leave it to me, Luffy said with a grin, and ran in front and stood on the railing. Gomo Gomo no. He flashed a grin to the Marines, who were looking at him with surety that he would die a painful death. Catch. The cannonball rested in his palm. The hell? Usopp, Yosaku and Johnny's jaws hit the deck, with the Marines following soon after realization struck them of what happened. She. Luffy laughed, tossing the cannonball and catching it with his another hand. This sure is fun. Full Body stopped in his path to look at the teen, who was freaking playing with the cannonball as if it was a regular ball. He had judged the kid wrong by his appearance, but still the kid had no chance against him. So, he brushed it off and moved on with his date to the restaurant and left his juniors to handle the mess. They're capable of that at least. Luffy suddenly looked at the Marines with a devilish grin. I'm hungry, so you can have your cannonball back, he said, and threw the cannonball with high speed to the Marines, who couldn't comprehend anything and went off like a bomb easily. Man, I sure am hungry, Luffy said with a pout, rubbing his stomach with his fingers, uncaring about the looks which he was getting from some of the crew. Let's go to the Baratie, Luffy said, breaking everyone out of their shock and shaking their head fondly, except Yosaku and Johnny, who were still speechless. It's Baratie, Luffy. Tying their little boat to the small outer deck of the fish-shaped restaurant, they finally reached Baratie, the place with fighting cooks. They would either be going from here or have a cook in tow with them. But knowing Luffy, he would eventually make a cook join them. That was what Zoro was sure about his captain. Meat. I want lots of meat, Luffy chanted cheerfully, the others following behind him. Nami was shaking her head with a soft smile grazing her lips at the childish boy. While Zoro had a small smile on his face too, wanting to get sake or booze. Usopp was reciprocating Luffy's childishness with his smile. The boy was no longer afraid of the teen. He was coming to a mental acceptance that Luffy is freaking stronger than anyone he knows, even if he is younger than him. His captain is childish and won't harm him. That was what he kept explaining himself. Walking inside, they were met with tension hanging in the air, followed by loud shouting. The diners were all staring at a table where two people were arguing. There was a blonde guy, who wore a black suit, and the Marine captain who had threatened them, but left with his date. At the sight of the angry Marine, Nami and Usopp were about to hide behind Zoro and Luffy, but they didn't require it. I'm a paying customer, the Marine lieutenant yelled, standing over the broken pieces of the table that he had broken a few seconds ago. For a damn cook, don't you have lots of ATTUTUDE? Full Body, stop. The blonde date of the Marine tried, but it was all in vain, as it went unheard. Can money fill your stomach? The blonde waiter, with a cigarette in his mouth, asked, feeling annoyed by the Marine. We need to stop him. Stop the assistant head chief Sanji. The cooks from the Baratie shouted in unison. Shouldn't they be stopping the Marine? Zoro asked with a raised eyebrow, his one hand on the hilt of his swords. Nah, he is strong. Luffy replied, looking at the fight. He had a feeling that the cook which he wanted for his ship had been found. Oh, Nami added from beside Usopp, who was looking at the fight. They didn't need to discuss anymore, as the cook raised his leg and with a kick, the Marine lieutenant started bleeding. He lost. He was defeated with his pride and pompousness. The Marine had also lost the remaining dignity that he had among the diners in the restaurant after the conversation with the blonde cook. Remember this, the blonde cook said through his cigarette, breaking the silence which had encompassed the restaurant. Going against a cook on the seas is tantamount to death. He threw the Marine aside and turned to him, finishing his speech, and don't you dare waste food. What? A loud yelling caught the crew's attention and they turned to see another chef coming in. The man was clearly angry at the blonde cook, and seeing the bloodied Marine on the ground his anger spiked even more. You again, Sanji? The man yelled, pointing his index finger at the blonde cook, called Sanji. What the hell do you think you are doing to our customers? The new cook asked angrily. Not only that, that man is also a Marine lieutenant. What is it, shitty cook? Sanji asked, turning towards the new chef. Don't call my name as if I am your friend. That clearly angered the man more. I ain't gonna stand by and let you call me a shitty cook. The new cook yelled in retortion. It's a cook's duty to serve their customers. Just how will you explain your act? So, what if he's the customer? He dared to waste food and insult a cook, Sanji said, flicking his hand to get rid of the Marine's blood. I was just teaching him a lesson. What's with this place? Full Body asked tremblingly. How can there be a restaurant that treats its customers like this? I'll close down the restaurant. I'll report this restaurant to the government. That bastard. Luffy cursed, feeling the same anger coming from the blonde cook, if not more. But it wasn't his fight, not right now the least. You're going to report us now? Well, then I guess I have no choice but to kill you right now. The blonde cook returned the threat to the Marine. Luffy smiled wide, deciding that this guy would be their cook and no one else. He won't take anyone else in place of him. We got a cook, Luffy announced to his crew, who absent-mindedly nodded, already having predicted it. What? The Marine asked in disbelief. No, stop. The cooks from Baratie yelled and ran to the angry blonde, who wanted nothing more than to beat the man to a bloody pulp. The little Straw Hat crew watched the drama while sitting at a table. Luffy was getting impatient. He wanted food, but the fight was good, but food. It just gets me so angry, Sanji growled from his restraint. Not bad, Zoro commented, whistling a bit, as he counted the number of cooks required to restrain the blonde. Moreover, the guy has the guts to go against a Marine. He was surely suitable to be a pirate. Hold him down or he might seriously kill him, to see a spoiled son of a bitch like you. Stop, Sanji. You've gone too far, one of the chefs, who got a kick to his face, yelled at the blonde who was fighting in the restraint where he was held. Just who the damn hell do you think you are? Sanji barked at the Marine, trying to reach him with one of his hands in a vain attempt. What's with this guy? Full Body thought, creeping back from the blonde who looked ready to murder him, without thinking twice. Owner. Another one of the chefs holding Sanji yelled, seeing a blonde man with braided nose hair coming out of a room. Please stop Sanji for us. Sanji. Are you running wild in my restaurant again? The owner asked, coming in full view of the crew, making Luffy's eyes turn to literal stars. The man had a peg leg and his mustache looked so awesome. So cool, Luffy whispered enthusiastically, making Usopp silently agree with his thoughts and Nami and Zoro shake their heads fondly at his childishness. Shut up, shitty geezer, Sanji said, calming down a bit and shrugging off the cooks from him. He stood there glaring at the owner. But Luffy could tell that there was no real heat behind those glares. It made him reminisce of Ace and Sabo when they would have an argument or fight and glare at each other but never meant true harm to the other. It's exactly as it seems, sir, the chef, Patty, who had come earlier, said, and this time Sanji beat up some idiot Marine lieutenant. Are you trying to ruin my restaurant, you little shit? The owner kicked the blonde and then turned towards the Marine and kicked him too. Get the hell out of here, you damn Marine. Full Body rolled off to the side, holding his bloodied self. He couldn't digest the fact that he was so easily insulted by the cook and owner of this damn place. And the fact that he, a customer, a Marine, someone who has enough power to make this place rot, is being treated this way. But one thought stuck up to him. Were these guys truly cooks? 'Cause like hell he'll believe it. This ship just gave him enough vibes and beatings to declare it a pirate ship. He was starting to sit up when one of his subordinates came rushing in. Lieutenant Full Body. Full Body turned towards the bloody Marine, who looked bloodied and had soot on his face and uniform. It's an emergency. Just what the hell is happening? Then his eyes fell on the kid crew, which he had underestimated, and he found the source of the soot and blood on the Marine. He gritted his teeth when the kid captain teased him with his tongue out. Forgive me, sir, but he escaped from the ship's prison. That stilled his thoughts of teaching the kid a lesson. He escaped, he fucking escaped. The underling of Pirate Krieg has escaped. It took 7 of us to just capture him in the first place, but now he is gone. The Marine frantically explained the situation to him, making Full Body straighten his back instantly. That's impossible. He shouldn't even have the strength to move. Full Body said through gritted teeth. He was on the verge of death when we captured him 3 days ago, not to mention a scrap of food since then. A member of Krieg's crew. The same pirate Krieg whose crew is said to be the strongest in all of the East Blue. The diners had already started panicking in the restaurant. Who's this Krieg guy? Luffy asked, tilting his head to the side in confusion. The name did sound as if he had heard it, but he doesn't remember much about the guy. He's the— Usopp got interrupted in his explanation as a loud bang came from the door, making him stop. The Marine who was trying to explain the situation was lying dead on the floor with another man coming slowly from the entrance. The diners began running here and there. It gave Luffy a free pass to have their food and not complain anymore about his hungry stomach to Nami, who sat beside him. Zoro followed Luffy's example and picked up a good number of bottles from abandoned tables and started drinking. One customer, coming this way, Patty announced, seeing the silhouette of the pirate coming in. He better not start any trouble in my restaurant, the owner said through his teeth. Swo hwe is a paiwate? Luffy asked with food in his mouth, getting a nod from Zoro. The man staggered forward, holding the pistol in his hand. Anything will do. Just bring me some food, he said. Luffy could feel how weak he was just because of a lack of food. This place is a restaurant, right? The pirate man asked, sitting on an empty chair. Welcome, you shit-faced bastard. Patty greeted, trying to act polite, but came off way too rude. I'm going to say this one more time. I'm a customer, so bring me food, the underling of Krieg said with his feet resting on the top of the table. That cook is as good as dead. Full Body gave his point of view, only to be proved wrong. Pardon me, dumbass, but do you have any money? Patty asked, rubbing his hands. You accept lead? The Krieg underling asked, pointing the loaded gun to the cook's head. So you don't have any money? Patty stated with a bored expression, unfazed by the gun pointed at his head. He didn't wait for an answer from the pirate and slammed him on the table, breaking it in the process and shocking some of the diners while some started smiling, feeling safe. That dumbass broke the table, the owner muttered angrily. He's strong, Usopp stated, looking at the cook. Luffy nodded, eating from another abandoned plate. If you can't pay the bill, then you ain't no customer, Patty said, making the customers and cooks cheer up. Nice going, cook. Show that pirate who's the boss, Patty. The cheering was accompanied by whistles, making Patty grin. A rumble was heard by both Patty and the Straw Hats, making them look at the fallen man who was on his knees holding his stomach. Oh, is that your stomach rumbling? Patty asked him, as if the man himself didn't notice it. That was just me farting, you bastard. So hurry up, and bring me some food, the pirate demanded once more, glaring at the cook. Luffy pushed away his plate, not wanting to eat anymore, feeling the pain coming from the hungry and starved pirate. He had seen and saved many people during his stay in Baltigo, who were malnourished and wanted nothing but some food. He could feel the same pain from the man who was down. He might not know how it feels to be starved, but he knows that he wouldn't like it. If you are not paying, then get the hell out of here, Patty shouted, making Luffy cringe inwardly. This is a restaurant for paying customers. I ain't giving a single crumb of bread to a broken-ass pirate like you. He kicked the pirate out, not noticing the Marine who was beat by Sanji walking away dreadfully and swearing to never come back here. Now then, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your food, Patty said with a smile on his face, making the diners return to their places. I'll be right back, Luffy stated, getting up from the table and going out, feeling Sanji coming out too. What? Where are you going, Luffy? Nami asked in surprise to the team. Luffy didn't reply and went off, leaving the crew to watch him from afar. Might get some more booze while we are here, Zoro said with a shrug, but kept an eye on his captain, not wanting him to drown if he gets near the railing. Hell knows how the boy can get into trouble even if he wouldn't voluntarily want it. And food, Usopp added, forgetting his previous fear. Meanwhile, Luffy climbed onto the upper part of the fish-shaped restaurant and walked over to the place where he could sense the pirate. He just got there in time to see Sanji placing a plate of fried rice and a glass of water before the hungry man. Eat, Sanji said, sitting on the deck with his back leaning on the railing of the ship and taking out a cigarette. The smell of the cooked rice made the pirate look up from the ground, but his pride held him back. Shut up. Even when I'm down and out, I won't take charity from others. Take this food away, now, he told Sanji, turning his head away with his teeth clenched, visibly struggling not to pounce on the food. Stop whining and eat it already. To me, anyone who's hungry is a customer, Sanji stated, making Luffy smile wider. He really has chosen a good cook for his crew, and now all that is required is to make him join him in his journey to be the king of pirates. Sorry, but I'm not a customer, the pirate stated with his gritted teeth and continued to deny the food. How large and cruel the ocean is, Sanji started, making Luffy think about it. His mother was cruel, that is true, but she can be gentle too. How scary it is to lose food and water on the ocean. How hard it is, Sanji said, looking far away, and Luffy felt that the man was not lying. He was speaking from experience. I can understand how a hungry person feels more than anyone. You can die for your pride if you want, but if you eat and survive, don't you think there's a future for you? That crumbled the remaining strength in the pirate to not eat. His shaking hands held the edges of the plates, and with tears streaming down his face he attacked the food like a wild animal, who had not eaten for months. "I don't know what to say," the pirate said honestly, gulping down the food. "I've never had such a delicious meal in my entire life. I'm so grateful. I thought I was going to die. I thought it was all over for me." Luffy smiled wide at the happy emotions coming from both the cook and his diner. "It's damn good, right?" Sanji asked with a smile of his own. She. Luffy laughed freely, happy that the pirate finally got food, happy that he finally got a good cook. "You finally got some food. That's good," Luffy said to the eating man and then turned towards the blonde. "Hey cook, join my crew. Be the cook for my pirate ship," Luffy chirped happily, not minding the shocked expression on the said people's faces. "You're a pirate?" both the underling of Krieg Pirate and Sanji asked in unison. Luffy hopped down from the railing into the people below the deck and claimed a seat on the railing of the ship. "Yep, I'm," Luffy answered truthfully. "I don't care who you are, just don't do anything stupid to this restaurant. The owner of this place used to be the cook of a pretty infamous crew," Sanji said, brushing off the invitation and more worried about the crew that the kid might have, if any. "Yeah, I know, Red Leg Zeph, right?" Luffy asked nonchalantly. "Yeah, the restaurant's like a treasure to the damn geezer, and the rest of the cooks who came to work here out of their admiration for that geezer are all hot-blooded and crude enough to be pirates." Sanji continued in the same way. "But it is quite right considering all the pirates that frequently visit these parts." "Not a quiet moment in this place, eh?" Luffy asked with a wide grin on his face. "Yeah, but it's a daily routine for us," Sanji replied. "There've even been some guests lately who come to see the pirate and the cooks duke it out. 'Cause of that all the waiters got scared and ran away." "Hey, whatever," Luffy said, not caring about the information. "Join my crew?" he asked, looking at Sanji, Unki's golden red. Sanji was about to say no to the kid, but as soon as he turned his head towards the said kid, he stilled. He froze. He felt as if he stood naked before the kid, who was reading his whole history, his past, his life up until now, from his reddish golden eyes. How the heck did the kid even change his irises? He was sure that the kid had brown doe eyes, not those red golden eyes, which looked holy and ethereal. The kid was no joke, that was what Sanji was sure of now. He held powers that would be enough to make him greet his death. He felt vulnerable in front of the teen, but at the same time, there was something in those red golden eyes that made his heart want to see it and look for it. Sanji was about to remove his gaze from the teen's eyes when the teen blinked. His brown owlish eyes were looking at him like he was the most amazing person to ever live. Sanji took a stuttering breath and took a swig from his cigarette, processing the feelings that he had just faced in a matter of 5 seconds and calming himself. "I'll have to refuse that offer," Sanji said. There was a part of him that hesitated to speak the sentence. Maybe that was due to fear of finding out what lay behind the laid-off persona of the boy, but he felt that he wouldn't be harmed or rather killed if he said the truth. "I got my own reason to keep working here," Sanji said, looking at him. "No, I refuse," Luffy shot back. "What?" Sanji asked, not getting what the boy meant, forgetting his earlier thoughts easily on him. "I refuse your refusal," Luffy retorted, crossing his arms on his chest and pouting, like a kid he was. "You're a good cook, so we can be pirates together." "Hey, at least hear me out," Sanji said, trying to reason with the boy. He is not like the ones to lash on kids without a proper reason, but something told him the boy won't be giving up on him easily. "Fine then, what's your reason?" Luffy asked with a pout. "No need to tell you," Sanji replied, making Luffy comically fall on the deck. "But you told me to just hear you out," he replied, getting up and plopping on the railing again. "All I meant was that you should hear other people's opinions when talking." Sorry to cut in the conversation, but the pirate who had finished eating said before Luffy could speak again. "My name's Jin. I'm a member of the Krieg Pirates." The pirate, now Jin, introduced himself. "So you said you're a pirate? Can I ask what your objective is?" "I'm going to be the king of pirates. That's why I'll go to the Grand Line," Luffy announced with his hands in the air. That shocked Jin, but he quickly composed himself. "If you're still looking for a cook, I'm assuming you don't have many people on your crew yet, right?" "With him," Luffy said, pointing at Sanji. "That makes 5. "Why are you counting me in?" Sanji growled angrily. "You don't seem to be a bad person," Jin continued, not wanting the kid to die young. "So, let me give you a piece of advice." He turned seriously and looked at the kid. "Give up on going to the Grand Line. You're still young, no need to recklessly rush into things. Besides, the Grand Line is just one part of all the oceans in this world. If you still want to be a pirate, there's plenty of other seas for you to roam out there." "But I want to go to paradise in the New World," Luffy stated, not considering that he is practically revealing secrets which he shouldn't. "Paradise? New World?" Jin asked in disbelief. "What the heck are you even sprouting?" Sanji asked, nonchalantly chewing the end of his cigarette. She. Nothing," Luffy just waved it off. "Whatever," Jin said, looking the other way. "But I still suggest you not go to Grand Line. He gulped, remembering the hellish events which followed in the Grand Line to him and the crew. It's so terrifying. It's not terrifying, Luffy said with his hands on his hips. You don't know since you have never been there, Jin stated, trying to make his point. But I have lived in the Grand Line for more than a decade, Luffy said in an obvious tone, making Jin and Sanji both look at him in surprise. Jin didn't believe that, even if Sanji seemed to consider it. A child like the kid escaping from Grand Line with his life and no obvious scars? That's impossible. Don't joke around, kid, Jin said, making Luffy frown. But I really am from there and I'm not a kid, Luffy said with a pout and suddenly started to sweat. He waved his hand and said, I am not giving any more information to you. Whatever, Jin replied, not wanting to think about the hellish place he had been. Nay, you seem to know about Grand Line. Have you gone there? Luffy asked, looking at the man with his doe-brown eyes filled with curiosity. No, I don't know anything. I don't understand anything about it. That's exactly why I fear it, Jin stated, holding his head and shaking a bit in fear. For an underling of Krieg, you are quite wimpy, Sanji stated with his hands in his pockets, looking for another cigarette. Who's Krieg? Luffy asked, tilting his head. He had asked the question to his crew but he wasn't able to get the answer. You haven't heard of him? Don Krieg is said to be the strongest and most evil pirate in the East Blue, Sanji told Luffy, who realized why the name rang a bell. It's true. My captain's the Don of a fleet that controls the captains of 50 pirate ships. We have more than 5,000 men in our ranks, Jin added, though Luffy didn't seem intimidated at all. Seeing this, Jin frowned and decided to give up on the kid. It would not be his fault if the kid died. In any case, I've warned Ya, he said as he hopped onto the boat, which was sitting on the water. See ya then. I'm still gonna go to the Grand Line, Luffy said stubbornly, hoping from the railing to the deck, to see off the pirate. Jin laughed. Well, you are free to do what you want. It's not like I have the right to stop that. Jin replied to Luffy and then turned to Sanji. And Sanji, thank you so much for the food. You're my savior. That meal was really the best I've ever had. Would it be alright to come here to eat again? Sure, anytime, Sanji replied. Hey, Sanji. Luffy and Sanji both turned to see the owner standing on the upper floor, looking at them. Geezer, Sanji said with a sigh. There you are, the man said as if he wasn't here from the very beginning and acted as if he noticed the empty plate on the ground just right now. Go Jin, Sanji told the still waiting pirate, who was hesitating. Sorry, just because you gave me food you're gonna get scolded, Jin apologized, feeling ashamed. Well, Sanji started picking up the empty plate, spoon and glass and threw them in the water. How can I get scolded when there's no proof? Jin looked close to tears but nodded and bowed down to the man. Thank you, Sanji, for everything. Don't you get caught again, Jin, Sanji waved off the man. Sanji, get back to work, the owner shouted with a small smile on his face, yet his voice came off as demanding as he wanted. She, Luffy laughed gleefully, feeling the owner funny as he loved the blonde but didn't show it, and the same with Sanji. His stomach made its hunger known to him, making him grin wide. It's time to eat now. See ya soon, Sanji. Sanji wanted to retort, but seeing the boy was just an energetic kid, who was also apparently a pirate, a powerful one if the earlier encounter points to something, he let him go. Luffy, you are back, Usopp waved to Luffy to show the new table in which they were sitting and had already ordered food. You guys started eating without me? Luffy pouted as he saw the plates filled with rice, vegetables, fruits and whatnot. There was even meat on some plates. We got something for you too, Nami said with a smile and pointed to the empty seat left for him, making him grin and sit beside her. Nami's the best, Luffy chirped as he was given a plate of meat, which was untouched and waiting for him to be gobbled. He absently noted the vegetables in the food but didn't mind much as it also had meat in it. Hey, Captain? Zoro asked playfully to his kid captain. Sometimes, it felt good to indulge in the boy's silly antics and get a sunny bright grin and carefree laugh in response. It always brings a smile to his face and makes him forget his worries. Luffy gasped and stopped in the middle of gobbling his steak. No, Zoro and Usopp are the best too. That made the said people flush with embarrassment. Anyways, where were you? Nami asked curiously, seeing that the other two were in no condition to reply. She understood that as she had also reacted the same way. And it doesn't help when Luffy is so adorable and has such a sunny smile which could even put the sun to shame. Oh, I was trying to recruit Sanji, Luffy answered between his bites of food. Did he agree? Usopp asked, sipping his tea. He'll. Oh, blessed are the oceans for bringing me this fine day. A voice cut Luffy off and presented Sanji with his arms stretched wide. Oh love, laugh if you will, at my poor self who cannot endure his tortuous passions. With his hands on his heart and eyes literally changing to heart, Sanji continued. As long as I can be with you, I'm prepared to walk across any path, be it the path of a pirate or a devil. But alas, 'tis tragic there is such a great obstacle standing between the two of us, Sanji finished at last, getting sweat drops in return from Zoro and Usopp and the thoughts about which crazy love cook was gonna join them. By obstacle, do you mean me, Sanji? Another gruff voice asked, which was of the owner, who was leaning on a chair and looking at the blonde. Damn it, geezer, Sanji cursed, turning his head to the man. It's a good chance. Just go and become a pirate. I don't need a guy like you in my restaurant. The owner responded with a bored expression. You damn geezer. I'm the assistant chef here, Sanji said with his hands in his pockets. What do you mean I'm not needed? You cause too much trouble with the guests, and if they happen to be female you swoon over them, Zeph said, crossing his arms over his chest. You can't even cook a decent meal. You're just a dead weight and none of the cooks even like you. Luffy couldn't understand why the man was lying through his teeth and agitating Sanji, but he remembers his dad saying that some people lie for a greater reason and he shouldn't point them out. Maybe that is what the owner was doing, lying for some greater reason. I don't care if you want to be a pirate or something else. Just get the hell out of my restaurant. The owner finished, making Sanji angrier, and turned fully towards the owner. Is that you wanted to tell me all along? Sanji asked, feeling hurt, but he refused to show it and walked towards the owner. I could overlook everything, but I won't let you say rubbish about my cooking. He yelled the last bit and grabbed the shirt of the head chef. Grabbing the collar of the head chef? The owner asked with an eyebrow raised, and slapped away Sanji's hands from his collar and threw him to the Straw Hat's table, who was listening silently. They had already sensed that and had lifted their plates from the table, not wanting them to get destroyed as collateral. Damn it, Sanji cursed, sitting up on the floor. You can try as hard as you want, but I am not gonna leave. I'll continue to cook here until the day you die. I ain't dying, the owner replied, turning his back towards the fallen assistant cook. I will live for another 100 years. Pretty mouthy for a damn geezer, aren't you? Sanji muttered, getting back up and dusting his suit pants. You got the permission, you can be a pirate now, Luffy chirped, not minding Sanji's anger which was flaring up. Shut up, Sanji yelled at Luffy, whose smile didn't falter even a bit and ended up laughing. Sanji turned to see Nami still sitting on the chair and quickly set the table properly. He flared his nose and started serving Nami as a gentleman. Forgive me for the ruckus, my lady. As an apology, please have this fruit Macedonia and this glass of Grand Marnier, Sanji said, pouring the said drink and presenting another side dish with fruits to the beautiful orange-haired young lady. Oh, thank you so much, Nami said, taking the glass gleefully, enjoying the treatment. You are so nice. Oh, it's nothing, Sanji responded as a gentleman. What about us? Usopp asked, taking a seat. This is gender discrimination, I'll sue you, you stupid love cook. I already gave you some tea, Sanji retorted, changing his mood from the love cook to a pissed cook. At least you can say thanks for it. What, you gonna start something? Usopp inquired, with his eyes bulging a bit. Get him Zoro, he said. He wanted to ask Luffy to do it, but he didn't want to make fun of himself by asking the youngest. Do it yourself, Zoro said, sweat dropping a bit and continuing to drink his sake and looking at the stack of plates that were beginning to pile up beside Luffy's current plate. You haven't even cleared the plates, Usopp said, changing the subject and pointing to the plate which still had mushrooms in it. You haven't finished it yet, shithead, Sanji replied. I left those on purpose. I was once poisoned by it when I was a kid and since then I hate mushrooms, Usopp said back, his long nose poking the blonde cook's forehead. Well, this ain't poisoned, long nose, Sanji retorted back. Please don't fight just 'cause of me, Nami said dramatically, trying to act charming by batting her eyes at the two males. Anything for you, miss, Sanji immediately said, leaving a pissed off Usopp behind. Just who the hell are you taking the side of? Usopp asked with his teeth getting sharpened edge. By the way, Mr. Cook, Nami said, looking at Sanji, who was too close to her. The food is too expensive for me here. Then it shall be free of charge for you, miss, Sanji replied instantly, mesmerized by the sweet girl hugging him. Thank you so much, Nami replied, grinning. You're paying though, Sanji said, turning towards the rest of the boys. For once, he really wondered how the stack of plates had increased, since it is not humanly possible for even the long nose, moss head and the boy to eat so much at once. He wouldn't count the young lady in since she is a woman and she is practically not eating anything but drinking. It doesn't matter as long as they pay and do not cause any ruckus in the restaurant. With Luffy stubbornly declaring that Sanji would be the only one to join them as the cook, the crew stayed docked near the Baratie. Each day went by Luffy trying to convince the love cook to join them and Nami getting free meals from the blonde. Zoro would sometimes stay on the merry training himself, taking a nap or sometimes coming to the restaurant to have some good alcohol. Nami would try different clothes on Luffy daily, making him dress up to her heart's content, and Luffy happily allowed her to do it. Usopp would hang out with Yosaku and Johnny sometimes, telling them his long tales, and sometimes Luffy would be there to hear them. In all, things were going smoothly, but everyone was feeling antsy and wanted to set sail already. Luffy even considered kidnapping the cook and running off to the Grand Line, but he could not do that. He would be a hypocrite if he did it, but he absently realized why Whitebeard liked to kidnap some people and make them join him. Still, He is not gonna kidnap Sanji against his will and will wait until he decides to join them. He didn't want anyone else as their chef. He only wants Sanji. It was after 2 days when a surprising incident took place in the Baratie. The diners who were sitting near the window enjoying the view of the ocean freaked out, dropping their glasses of wine or the forks they were holding. "It's Don Krieg's pirate ship," one of them yelled loud for the whole restaurant to hear. The other diners instantly left their seats to confirm the sight for themselves. The sight of the flag with 2 hourglasses at each side. Even the cooks were panicking. Some were even blaming Patty as he was the one to beat the Krieg underling and deny him food. The cooks were starting to believe that the pirate ship was coming to avenge that pirate. "This is really bad, shouldn't we be running away?" Usopp shrieked, looking at the ship from one of the windows of the restaurant. "Let's set sail immediately, Luffy," Nami said in a pleading tone, not wanting to be killed by the man. "Jin must have come to repay his debt to you, Sanji," Luffy said to the blonde cook who was standing beside him and looking at the ship docking at the Baratie. The ship was huge and was shadowing the Baratie even, but it wasn't as big as the Moby. "Somehow I don't think that's the case," Sanji said, smoking from his cigarette. For once Zoro felt that he could agree with the love cook on this. "That ship. It's complete shambles," Zoro said, looking at the tattered sails and the chipped off wood. "To turn a gigantic galleon of that size into that sad state. That's no work of humans. They must have been caught up in a natural disaster," Sanji added. Somehow Luffy didn't feel that, if the person who was nearing by had something to say in the matter. After a few moments of wait, the door to the restaurant was kicked open. Standing before them was Jin supporting his captain, Don Krieg. "Sorry for intruding, but could I have some water and food?" The captain, who had purple hair and was wearing a black coat, begged. "If it's money you want, I've got plenty." "What the heck?" Patty said, not believing at the sight of the dangerous and evil pirate literally begging. "That weak, worn-out looking guy is Krieg. He looks starved," Luffy mumbled. "Wonder what happened," Sanji said his thoughts out loud. "Don Krieg," Jin shouted as he saw his captain fall down due to weakness. He turned to the cooks in the Baratie and started begging for his captain. "I am begging you, please give him food and water. Please save my captain, or he will die at this rate." Patty started laughing loudly, feeling that the man before him was of no threat since he couldn't even practically stand on his own. "Perfect, just perfect. So this is what the infamous pirate Don Krieg looks like. We've money this time. We are paying customers," Jin said, defending his captain's dignity. "Hey, contact the Marines immediately," Patty said to one of the cooks. "This is the perfect chance for the government to arrest him. Don't let the morsel have a single bite." The crowd of diners started agreeing with Patty and yelled out their thoughts of not letting the man get any food so he could get back to his feet and attack them or worse, kill them. Even most of the cooks were in agreement with it. Don Krieg got down to his knees, gritting his teeth at the humiliation he was feeling. "I won't do anything. If you give me food, I promise to leave quietly. So, please help me." Luffy felt that Craig was lying through his teeth, but he was really ally hungry. He looked to his side, seeing Sanji quietly slip out of the room to the kitchen, and felt a smile come upon his face as he understood what the man was about to do. "Don Krieg, please stop," Jin yelled, with tears in his eyes. "A great man like you shouldn't be lowering his head. It's shameful." Krieg ignored Jin's words and felt anger run through his veins. Still, he needed food and he didn't care if he had to beg for it. Once he is up, he won't excuse these petty excuses of cooks and pests of the crowd openly gawking at him. "I'm begging you," he stated, plopping his head to the ground. "I don't mind if it's leftovers or whatever. Please, just give me anything." "Anything," Don Krieg repeated, making Jin clench his eyes shut at the embarrassing sight. "Trying to earn some sympathy?" Patty asked, raising his eyebrows and not falling for the begging at all. "Hey, move, Patty," Sanji said, holding a plate of cooked rice and a bottle of alcohol. He kicked Patty, who was standing on his way to the starved man. "Here, Jin. Give this to him." He presented the food to the starved man. "Sanji," Jin said in shock, making Krieg lift his head from the ground and snatch the food from the blonde and eat it like a feral animal. "Thank you," Krieg said through his tears, cherishing the feeling of fresh and warm food in his stomach after a lot of time. "Hey, Sanji. Take that back this instant." A cook yelled at Sanji, pointing his trembling finger at the man who was chugging down the alcohol and wolfing down the food. "Do you have any idea what kind of man he is? The ruler of the East Blue, the king of deceptions. That's Don Krieg for you." The chef continued, with his horrified eyes watching the pirate eat. He started disguising himself as a marine after escaping from prison. He then killed the marine officer in charge of the ship and took it over. That's how he became a pirate. Since then he attacked ports, towns, and other ships by hanging a marine flag, and when attacking his enemies, he hangs a white flag to attack them by surprise. The chef continued, sweating over at the sight of the evil pirate. He's a man who'll stop at nothing to win, and that's how he made his way to the top. His strength ain't no joke either. Do you really think he'll leave after eating? That's utterly impossible. The chef was paling as the pirate was eating more and more. Letting a demon like him starve to death is for the good of the world. As soon as the chef finished his words, Don Krieg stood up to punch the blonde who had served him the delicious meal, only to be stopped by a straw hat wearing boy, who appeared out of nowhere, stopping his punch in midway. What the heck? Usopp and Nami shrieked as they were sure Luffy was just beside them just a second ago. So he revealed his fangs at last, Zoro said with a bloodthirsty grin. Luffy, Sanji said with wide eyes, looking at the boy smirking under his hat. You got lucky, boy, Don Krieg said with his gruff voice, his fist still held in the boy's grasp. Hey, Luffy lifted his straw hat with his other hand to show his cold eyes to the man, freezing him momentarily. Didon, Jin shouted. This is different from what you promised. I guided you cause you promised to not harm anyone here. Jin felt betrayed that his Don had tried to harm the man who had saved them both. Unfortunately, he was ignored by the pirate captain. Who do you think you even are? Don Krieg said through his gritted teeth as he tried to pull his F in vain. He glared at the teen who held the power to restrain him but was overconfident in himself that he would beat him easily. I'm Monkey D. Luffy. The man will be the king of pirates, Luffy announced, punching the man's arms to the side and glaring at him. Don't you dare hurt my cook. Hey, stand back, kid, one of the cooks warned Luffy, even if he had easily held Krieg's punch easily, or you'll be killed. I'm not standing down, especially on this, Luffy said with a grin, not minding the shock coming from everyone in the restaurant. Did you say something, little brat? Krieg asked, laughing mockingly at the kid, even if he had successfully held his punch back. I'll be nice enough to let your comment just now slide. It's fine, you don't have to let it slide, Luffy said, crossing his arms on his chest, with a determined gaze. I was only stating the truth. This ain't a game, Krieg said, gritting his teeth. Of course, Luffy said, nodding his head. He knows he needs to struggle and get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger to get the freedom that his heart desires. You planning to fight Luffy? Zoro asked, holding his white sword out. Need a hand? Even Usopp was looking confident, sitting beside Nami, who was silently sipping her drink. Nah, it's fine. I can handle it, Luffy replied with a grin. Krieg started laughing at the sight of the crew the little brat possessed. Those are your crewmates? A rather small bunch, aren't they? What? I have one more as well, Luffy said, pointing towards Sanji, who was silently looking at the duo talking. Hey, don't count me in, Sanji retorted half-heartedly. Don't joke with me, punk. Even my fleet of 50 ships and 5,000 pirates were utterly decimated by that devilish sea in just 7 days only because we lacked information, Krieg said, stating his loss loudly. He didn't care about the whispers which arose due to it. D, you hear that just now? Usopp asked, not wanting to go to Grand Line anymore. 50 ships gone in just a single week. We're no match for the Grand Line, Nami said with a shiver, concluding what Usopp wanted to say. Hey, sounds interesting, Zoro said with a smirk, knowing that Usopp and Nami were just afraid for a moment. Nice ship you've got here, Krieg said, dismissing the punk, who had narrowed his eyes at him, clearly watching his every move. He hates people who love to boost and not back their words like the boy. He was weak due to hunger. That was the only reason the boy was able to intercept his punch. I'll take it. I told you so. This is Krieg and now he is going to take over our ship. The cook who had explained all about Krieg yelled. Get out of the ship. The diners started running out of the restaurant, not wanting to be killed by the ruthless pirate. We have got to get out of here before we get killed. Patty groaned, waking up at the commotion, and saw Krieg standing in all his glory. Don Krieg, what about the promise? Jin asked hastily, not wanting to cause any harm to the restaurant, which Sanji loves. This time Jin didn't get ignored. He got held by his throat and harshly thrown to the ground. Shut up, Don said with a pissed-off attitude. I'll do whatever I want. Hey, Jin, are you alright? Sanji asked, looking at the fallen man. My ship's all worn out, so I've been wanting for a new one, Don Krieg said with a smirk, feeling invincible. Once my business is done with you, I'll finish you off. Right now, I have 100 men on my ship and they're all starving and critically wounded. So prepare enough food and water for them. You're asking us to willingly feed 100 pirates? Only for them to attack us in return? The same chef who had been doing the talking yelled. We refuse, the cooks and the Baratie told in unison. Refuse? Seems like we have a little misunderstanding. I was not asking whether or not, Krieg said through gritted teeth as he glared at the cooks. I'm ordering you and nobody disobeys me. Sanji, Jin said while lying on the ground. I'm so sorry, I didn't want this all to happen at all. Sanji, you bastard, it's 'cause of you that we're in this situation. Patty yelled, sitting up on the floor and turning to look at the said man. Where do you think you were even going? He yelled, seeing Sanji going towards the kitchen. To the kitchen, Sanji said, taking out his cigarette from his mouth for a bit, to prepare enough food for 100 people. That stunned the remaining people who were on the ship, which were the Baratie cooks and the Straw Hats. What? They asked at once, while Luffy spotted a wide smile on his face. He understood what Sanji was doing, while others clearly looked conflicted at Sanji's opinions on feeding the pirates. In an instant, the cooks and Baratie pointed their guns at Sanji, stopping him and making the Straw Hat crew gasp. Even Zoro was looking at Luffy, wanting to interfere, not because he cared for the love cook. It was only cause Luffy wanted him in the crew. Luffy shook his head knowing that the cooks wouldn't shoot Sanji despite their warnings. "Fine, shoot me if you want to stop me," Sanji said, spreading his arms, and ready to die for his ideals. "I know they are nothing but s who aren't worth a dime saving, but to me, none of that matters. Thinking about whom to feed and whom not to is such a hassle," Sanji said with a smile. "Shouldn't a cook be allowed to cook for anyone hungry? Isn't that ideal?" For his words, Patty awarded him with a punch on his head. "Hold him down," Patty said to the cooks who were already on it. Luffy felt something was about to happen and it would be better for them to not interfere right now. In his thoughts, he missed the rest of the conversation which Patty said and was snapped back to the reality when Patty shot Krieg with his bazooka. Krieg was blown off from the restaurant door and straight outside. But Luffy knew the man was not down for the count. He would gladly put him down, but this fight was not his, even if the man was pissing him off. It was a test for the cooks, to check their morals and their courage against a pirate. If they asked him to fight, he would gladly fight. But that won't be required anytime soon, since someone had decided to move fast and approach them. "This is the worst restaurant I have ever been to," Krieg said, coming out of the smoke, which had encompassed the door, with golden armor on show. "Bellies." Nami's eyes changed to the sign of bellies as soon as she saw the golden armor. "He is scary," Usopp stated, looking with his wide, terrified eyes at the man. "That bastard! Get him!" Patty shouted, leading the cooks who had their weapons out to charge at the pirate captain. But Don Krieg was not having any of it anymore. He started shooting with his gun at the cooks, leading them to duck under tables, and some even got injured. "You damn worms! You think you can defy me?" Krieg yelled, firing ruthlessly at the cooks. "Stop it!" a voice rang through the restaurant, followed by a thud. "Owner Zeph," the cooks uttered, seeing the man plop down a big sack of food before Krieg. "There's enough food for your people. So, hurry up and bring it to your men," Zeph said to the pirate captain. "Did they just say, Zeph?" Don Krieg asked with shock. "Sir, how could you give him food? What's the meaning of this?" The cooks started asking questions at the head chef. "Once they recover, they will take over this ship." "That's only if they still have any fight left in them," Zeph stated, turning to his cooks. "Isn't that right, defeated warriors of the Grand Line?" Zeph inquired, looking over his shoulder to the large man. "What?" Usopp asked with wide eyes. He was defeated. The strongest man in the East Blue. The pirate fleet admiral of 50 ships. Even he was utterly defeated by Grand Line? The cooks asked in shock. "Your red leg, Zeph." Krieg started coming to the realization. He didn't waste a single time mocking the man, seeing his peg leg and determining how his pirate career ended and why he chose to be a cook in a lousy restaurant. He started his adventures and his reputation in the Grand Line. "Seeing your condition, I can say you can't fight anymore," Krieg said, not fearing about the ex-pirate anymore. "So what? I can cook with my hands," Zeph stated nonchalantly. "What are you even getting at?" "Red leg Zeph. You are the person who had scoured the waters of the Grand Line and has returned without an injury," Krieg started, with his hands on his chin. "You must have clearly kept a logbook of your adventures. Hand that to me." "I ain't handing you a shit," Zeph said through his gritted teeth. "That log is a pride to me and my men who bravely ventured the Grand Line together. I ain't giving to you." "Then I'll have to steal it from you," Krieg stated, and went on to say how it was the lack of information that had defeated him in the Grand Line and how if he had the logbook he would conquer the seas. "I'll steal it and the ship and no one can stop me," Krieg roared. "Like hell, we'll let you. If we lose this ship we have nowhere to go." The cooks here were chased from other restaurants before finally finding a place. "Owner Zeph accepted us. He is our savior. We ain't letting you pirates steal our home away." The cooks roared together, but Krieg didn't listen to the shit they were sprouting. He picked up the bag of food and stated, "I'm giving you all only a few minutes of extension. I'm going to give this food to my subordinates and then return back here. So, flee if you want." He turned his back to the crowd and said the last words, "If you still want to be here, then so be it. I'll bury your bodies in the bottom of the sea for eternity." With that said, the man walked away from the cooks, whose shouts were still heard from outside. They will all shut up, once he crushed them under his feet, Krieg thought. "Sanji," Jin said as his head touched the restaurant's floor. "Please forgive me. I had no idea at all that this would happen. There's no need to apologize." Unexpectedly, it was Zeph who said that. "The cooks of this restaurant acted out of their own free will, and this is the result of that." "Sir, how could you of all people side with Sanji?" Patty asked with disbelief. Of all the people he could have thought to take Sanji's side wasn't owner Zeph at all. Just what's the meaning of this? "That's right," other cooks started saying. "Sanji's the one to blame for all this. He just wants to destroy this restaurant that's so important to you, sir." Other cooks started accusing Sanji, who was just standing beside Luffy. "Sanji, were you planning on using this mess we're in to become the next head chef?" The cooks were getting out of control and speaking nonsense, but Sanji stayed quiet. Silence, you numbskulls. Zeph roared, stopping the accusations towards his foster son. Have any one of you ever been hungry enough to die? Do any of you know just how terrifying and painful it is to be stuck in the ocean, deprived of food and water? Sanji didn't speak a word, letting Zeph speak for him. He lit his cigarette and puffed out a ring of smoke, remembering the hungry days he spent with Zeph on the rock, starving. What do you mean, sir? Patty asked in shock. If you've got time to be crying over spilled milk, then just leave this place using the back door, Zeph said, pointing to the door for the cooks. I'm gonna stay here, Patty said, holding his weapon. I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I just left without a fight. Same here. This is the place I live and work at. Not like I've got anywhere else to go to. The cooks voiced their opinions of not wanting to leave the restaurant. It was their home to protect. What are you all doing? Jin yelled, sitting up on the floor. Haven't you realized how powerful the Don is by now? You need to run away before he annihilates each one of you. Hey, Jin, Sanji said, speaking for the first time, looking down at the man. Let me tell you something. It's my duty as a cook to feed anyone who's starving. But the ones who are coming to attack this ship are those who've already been fed. So you better not complain when I kill them. If someone is planning on stealing this ship, then I'll kill that person without a second thought, even if it's you, Sanji said, his face shadowed by his bangs. Got that? HMPH, you save a person only to kill him afterwards, some guy you are, Patty said with his large fork on his shoulders. Shut up, shitty cook, Sanji retorted, looking away from the man. Luffy, we need to get out of here, Nami said, banging her hands on the table. Why? Luffy asked innocently. If we don't get out of here soon, Usopp said with fear leaking from his voice. Calm down, Zoro said to Usopp and Nami, who were on the verge of panic. Our enemies are wounded pirates. That's right, and besides I have to fight with that guy, Luffy said, remembering the pirate's words and actions. If he says he is strong, then he and I are going to fight eventually. Luffy left it unsaid that the guy was pretty weak compared to him. The only reason he wanted to fight the man was cause he treated his crewmate, Jin, like nothing. Moreover, he had tried to punch Sanji. He wasn't going to let that slide. He likes this restaurant, so he won't let it be wrecked by a fake pirate. Jin, didn't you say you have never been to the Grand Line? Sanji asked the man, making Luffy and the other Straw Hats turn towards the man. What I don't know is the truth. I can't just believe it. I just don't know if those 7 days we spent there were real or just a nightmare. Jin said with his hands tugging on his hair. He just appeared out of nowhere. To think all 50 ships of the Krieg pirate fleet were destroyed by a single man. What? Usopp and Nami said with wide eyes. Zoro even dropped his jaw at the said words. That's impossible, the cooks in Baratie yelled. Luffy only nodded. The Krieg pirates were not ready for the Grand Line, and that's what happened when they encountered that man. While we still had no idea of what was going on, our ships sank one by one, and if it weren't for that storm that whisked us away, even our main ship would have sunk, Jin said, looking utterly terrified of what he was reliving. I don't even know how many of our ships managed to survive. It's just too terrifying to believe is real. I don't even want to think about. That hawk-eyed man whose glare is sharp enough to kill a man. I don't want to think about him, Jin said, getting Zoro's complete attention. What? Zoro said in disbelief. The man he has been searching for all the while is out there in the Grand Line. How could our entire fleet be sunk by a single man? Jin questioned, not getting it at all. That has to work off the hawk-eyed man without a doubt, Zeph said without missing a beat. Hawk-eyed? Some of the cooks repeated the word. You saying that you witnessed a man whose glare was as sharp as that of a hawk doesn't necessarily prove it was him, but the fact that he sunk your entire fleet is more than enough proof that it really was him, Zeph asked, crossing his arms on his chest. Hawk-eyed? Usopp repeated. Who's that? Dracul Mahawk, Luffy supplied, sitting on the table swinging his leg. He is one of the warlords of the seas and one of the best swordsmen in the world. And the man I'm searching for, Zoro said seriously, forgetting that Luffy said something more too. But I thought he is the best swordsman in the world? Nami questioned, making Zoro look at Luffy. His captain was from Grand Line. He sure ought to know more than he does. Nah. Luffy said, shaking his head and becoming the center of attention from the cooks in Baratie and his crew, as well as Jin, who was looking at Luffy with horrified eyes. Haki sure does have that title, but the truth is that Shanks and Haki have the same level. They both are the best. Luffy said, remembering the statement that Ace and Sabo had told him. Dad and Sabo told me that it's only due to government propaganda that Haki carries that title. Propaganda, Zeph supplied, erasing everyone, and Luffy nodded. That's what I said, Luffy said before continuing. Every pirate in the New World, Grand Line, knows that. Zeph's eyes widened as he realized that the kid could be from none other than the New World if he knew that. You are from the Grand Line, Zeph said, making Luffy not say anything. He just kept looking at the distance from where the man was coming. Did he bear some ill grudge against you guys? Sanji asked, clearly saving Luffy only because Luffy had saved him. For him to destroy your entire fleet like that. I don't remember anything like that, Jin retorted. He just attacked us all of a sudden. Perhaps you disturbed his afternoon nap? Zeph asked, having faced Mahawk a few times in his journey.
Or he just wanted to kill some time, Luffy mumbled, getting off from the table.
That's bullshit, Jin shrieked. You mean to tell me he destroyed our entire fleet for that? No need to get so irritated. That's just the kind of place the Grand Line is, Zeph said, fondling his braid. A place where even the abnormal is normal, huh? Zoro questioned. Yep, Luffy said, vibrating with energy. That place is such a thrill, we need to go there soon. Shut up, Luffy, Nami said irritatedly. She couldn't comprehend anything. She knew Luffy was hiding something, but the fact that he possibly could be from the Grand Line. Could you at least try to think of the danger? Usopp asked seriously. But we need to go to the Grand Line since those men are there, Zoro declared with a smirk. He was out for defeating one person earlier, so what if one more person is waiting for him to defeat? Bunch of idiots you lot are, to rush to their deaths, Sanji said, looking at the table, where the idiots with high ambitions sat. True, ever since I've decided to become the world's greatest swordsman, I threw away my attachment to life, Zoro replied. The only one who has to call me an idiot is me alone. That for sure stoke a chord in some people. Oh, me too, Luffy said, raising his hands. It was either he becomes the freest man or rather die without freedom. As a real man, the same goes for me too, Usopp said, clearly lying, which got pointed out by Zoro too. Nami silently stood up from her chair. She had realized one thing, and that was the cruel reality. She didn't belong to the group of dreamers who have not given up on their dreams like she had long ago. Zoro bro, Usopp bro, Luffy bro, Nami bro, in came a familiar voice yelling out the names of the said pirates. Why am I bro? Nami grumbled with her shark teeth at Johnny, who stumbled over Yosaku, leading to a stack of papers falling down. What the heck is happening here? Yosaku asked from where he fell. There is Krieg's ship docked here. We already know, Yosaku, Zoro answered nonchalantly. What's wrong, Nami? Luffy asked as he noticed Nami crunching a bounty poster in her hands with her bangs shadowing her eyes. Nothing, Nami replied, getting up from the ground and stuffing the paper in her skirt pocket. She just hadn't realized how fast the time had passed as she spent her each day with the pirates. It was time. Time to get back to her village and finally free it. She has enough money for it. You're hiding something, Luffy stated, making Nami go still. It always amazes her how Luffy easily sees through her lies. It scares her as she doesn't want her mask to be shattered in front of everyone. I told you it's nothing, Nami said through her gritted teeth and started walking out. She needed to leave, right now. She can't fall in between the tussle they have gotten themselves in. It was none of her business. Whether Luffy D dies or not, it doesn't matter to her. She lied to herself. You are thinking of leaving us, Luffy stated, making Nami freeze while the others turned towards her instantly. Even if I leave, it's none of your business, she said in a low voice to Luffy, wincing at the plain hurt that flashed in the boy's eyes momentarily before he hid it. Just leave me alone, she said, and started running off, wiping the stray tears with her palm, which leaked as soon as she turned. She wasn't able to run much far when a hand on her wrist stopped her. She momentarily turned back to see Luffy holding her wrist and Zoro standing beside him. Usopp just standing behind him with Sanji looking unsure of what to do. Even Johnny and Yosaku were there, looking at her expectantly. You are our navigator, you can't leave us, Luffy stated. I can't be the Pirate King without you, Nami. I never officially joined you, Nami tried to defend herself, even if she felt her heart crack at Luffy's words. It was only a temporary alliance, she said, not daring to see the raw hurt that Luffy's face was showing. Luffy wasn't meant to be hurt. He was meant to be coddled, protected, to smile. Luffy, let me go. She gulped down the sob that threatened to wreck from her throat as she said the line, wanting nothing but to stay, but at the same time, she didn't belong here. She didn't belong to the Cherry Group, which had made a place in her heart.
I can help, Luffy said in a soft voice. I can free your village, Nami.
Nami wiped her tears from her other hand and turned slightly to look over her shoulder and saw Zoro nod at what Luffy said. She should have been feeling happy at those words, but she felt guilty. If she asks for help, then she would be endangering Luffy's life, Zoro's life, Usopp's life. Everyone's life. Moreover, Luffy is just a kid. He doesn't need to fall in mid of her matters. No matter how strong he is. He can't fight and defeat Arlong. He is a damn fishman. No, she yelled, not wanting to involve Luffy at all, jerking Luffy's hand from her wrist. She knew that Luffy had let her do that, but she couldn't help but move forward, leaving the merry friends, wasn't that a such good word, behind. I will come for you no matter what, Luffy's words made her falter again. I won't enter the Grand Line without you. You're my friend, Nami, and if you truly see me as a younger brother. Nami's face turned red, realizing that her well-hidden feelings were well known by Luffy all along. Then as a brother, it's my responsibility to protect my sister, Luffy declared, but unknowingly he had steeled Nami's determination to leave once more. Yes, Luffy is like a little brother to her. So, as a big sister, she can't let her brother's life be in danger. Not even her friends. Don't come for me, she said as she started walking again. Wait a little longer and we'll kick that bastard's ass for you. Luffy shouted, pleading for one last time. But Nami gently shook her head and moved on. She cannot stay anymore. Not when Arlong can come searching for her when she is gone for so long time. Time sure does fly fast. She stopped out of fear at the docks as the huge galleon of Krieg broke into 3 parts, freezing her in her path. What? Everyone yelled in panic at the sight of the ship. What the heck happened? Krieg yelled, sweating bullets. Our ship's been cut. One of the pirates yelled. Crap, Usopp yelled. Our ship was outside too. Nah, it's safe, Luffy said, knowing that the ship was out of the harm's reach. He had already made a gust of wind which had led the Mary to the other side of the Baratie for its safety, but it had tired him badly. Tapping at those powers sure was hella hard. Raise the anchor or this ship's gonna get dragged under. Zeph's voice rang out next, making the cooks scramble to follow his orders. There was so much panic in the atmosphere that it was making Luffy lose his balance. Above all this, the fact that he had used the powers that he shouldn't have used until he used that form is tiring. He is here, Luffy said next, feeling lightheaded. Everyone including Nami turned towards him. Who is here? Zoro asked, looking at the direction Luffy was seeing only to find a man seated in a one-man boat.